like to call the Senate to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Barnett, Senator Barrett, Senator Berry, Senator Blackman, Senator Blackwell, Senator Blunt, Senator Boyd, Senator Brumfield, Senator Bryan, Senator Butler, Senator Carter, Senator Chazanall, Senator Chisholm, Senator DeBar, Senator Delano, Senator Dupree, Senator England, Senator Fillingane, Senator Frazier, Senator Gillespie Eisen, Senator Harkins, Senator Hartness, Senator Hickman, Senator Hill, Senator Hobson, Senator Jackson, Senator Johnson, Senator Kirby, Senator Ladner, Senator McCon, Senator McClendon, Senator McMahon, Senator Michelle, Senator Mumford, Senator Norwood, Senator Parks, Senator Pope, Senator Rhodes, Senator Seymour, Senator Simmons of the 12th, Senator Simmons of the 13th, Senator Sparks, Senator Suber, Senator Tate, Senator Taylor, Senator Thomas, Senator Thompson, Senator Turner Ford, Senator Whaley, Senator Wiggins, Senator Williams, Senator Younger.
Present.
Mr. President, a quorum is present.
Will the senators and guests in the gallery please rise for the invocation to be given by Sean Parker. Our next door neighbor over here is always so good to us and allow us to have meetings and whatnot in his facilities. He is the executive director and the treasurer at the Mississippi Baptist Convention Board here across the street here in Jackson. After that, the invocation will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Senator Younger. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Governor Hosemann, and thank you, senators, for what you do. Let's bow together for a moment of prayer. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for your constant presence and your faithful and loving care for us on a day-to-day basis. Over the course of these last several weeks, we've been particularly mindful of your favor upon our nation, the United States, over the course of 250 years. In spite of our moral failings and our spiritual insensitivities through much of that time, we thank you for that favor. We also recognize your blessings upon our state, and we lift up today every city and small town and community and village across the state and ask that you would bless all of the residents of this wonderful place, bless those that are engaged in business endeavors, bless those that are providing leadership with civic affairs and local political matters. We pray that you would grant them all wisdom and guidance so as the blessing of this state might continue. Father, I am particularly mindful of these senators today. I'm thankful for the sacrifice they've made to be here on a rather impromptu notice. And Father, I lift up all of them today and ask for your blessings upon these proceedings. Bless Governor Hosemann as he presides. Lord, grant him a spirit of wisdom and guidance and fairness. I pray for every senator that will participate that you'd grant them clarity of thought and communication. And Father, as they deal with the issue at hand today, such an important issue, our youth court system, I pray that you would give them a spirit of consensus and agreement and help them to understand what will be best because, Lord, this is such a vital issue for our communities to address. Lord, we recognize that you have called us to be leaders, so help us to be leaders that honor you and walk with integrity and bring honor to your name. For it's in the name of Christ Jesus our Lord we pray. Amen.
Amen. Would you please say the pledge with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Message and petitions, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, there are none.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Bryan, for what purpose you seek recognition?
A point of order.
Please proceed.
Do I understand there are no messages or petitions?
That is correct, Senator. I requested information as to whether or not the resolution had to be read that was from the governor to request a special meeting of the legislature today, and I was informed we do not have to read the message.
So that is not considered a message. Thank you, Mr. President.
It is considered as a resolution, Senator. Okay, anyone else seeking recognition? Anyone else? Okay, Senator Harkins.
I move to dispense with the reading of the titles of the bills and resolutions.
Senator moves to dispense with the reading of the titles and bills and resolutions. It's been a while, y'all. All in favor signify by saying aye. Yes. Senator,
if we-
for what purpose, sir?
If we're about to vote on the motion to suspend the reading of the titles of the bills and resolution,
Yes, sir.
I would like to speak on that motion.
You're recognized to speak on the motion, Senator. We have a motion before us by Senator Harkins on suspending the rules on the reading of the titles of bills and resolutions, and is objected by Senator Bryan. Senator Bryan is recognized to speak on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not absolutely certain of the procedure or the significance of that motion. I've been told several things over the years. What I would like to do is at this point introduce a bill and ask that the Senate resolve itself into a committee of the whole to consider that bill. I'm speaking on this motion because I don't know what the effect of that motion would have on my ability to introduce a bill. But the point, Mr. President, is that I think we are making a serious mistake by considering matters of the magnitude that are before us in such a swift manner. None of us knew this session was going to be called, that I know of, until 24 hours ago. You can look around you and see that attendance is less than perfect. The matters that are before us are of great importance. Having read the long title of the bill, which I was able to find last night, it appears to me there are many good features of this bill, and clearly a lot of work has gone into it. But at the same time, there are a lot of questions about it. Not only have members not been able to consider those matters, but there are 3 million people in the state who also might have ideas. And for that reason, Mr. President, I had hoped to offer at the appropriate time a bill to simply extend the repealers effective from and after passage, which inadvertently repealed or whatever toward the end of the last couple of months, and at least get those back on the books, which clearly is something that could be done expeditiously and should be, and regardless of anything else, we could pass that bill and get it to the governor in a couple of hours. But Mr. President, if I'm giving up the opportunity to move that we go into a committee of the whole by the motion to suspend the reading of the titles of the bills and resolutions, then I would oppose that motion. But if, notwithstanding the fact that we're not reading the titles of the bills and the resolutions, it's still possible to introduce a bill and move to go in the committee of the whole, then I'm content with not reading titles. So that's where I am, Mr. President. Thank you.
In that regard, Senator, we'll take your motion as one moment, please. Just one moment. In that regard, Senator, we'll take your motion concerning the rules and resolutions and get back with you. Just 1 second. Just hold on. Okay, we're going to go back to Senator Harkins' motions as mentioned to you, and Senator will complete these two. All in favor of Senator Harkins' motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senator Harkins, you're recognized to move the dispense with the reading of the titles of bills and resolutions. I'm sorry, the second one. Hold on. We just did that. Okay, Senator Harkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to recognize our friend and colleague, Senator John Polk, who is now receiving hospice care at home. Spoke to his wife, Jan, and she requests that any attempts to reach out to Senator Polk, please do to her phone. They are utilizing her phone to communicate with people, so if you wish to send our friend Senator Polk a message, get with Amanda. She's got Miss Jan's number to do so. But we wanted to say some words and acknowledge our friend Senator Polk. And John has been a man of integrity, humility, and quiet strength throughout his service. He's carried himself with dignity, always treating others with respect, regardless of differences of opinion. He's never sought the spotlight, but instead faithfully served his constituents and this body with wisdom, grace, and an unwavering commitment to doing what he believed was right. Those of us who had the privilege of serving alongside John know him not only as a dedicated public servant, but as a genuinely kind man, a gentleman whose character has spoken louder than his words. His steady presence, his thoughtful counsel, and friendship have left a lasting impression on all of us. As John and his family walk through this difficult season, I know I speak for the entire Senate when I say our thoughts and prayers are with them. We pray that God will surround Miss Jan and her family and John with his peace, his comfort to his loved ones, and remind them of the tremendous impact John had on so many lives. Senator Polk, we thank you for your faithful service to Mississippi, for your friendship, and for the example you set. You have earned the respect and admiration of this chamber, and we will always remember you with gratitude and affection. May God bless Senator Polk and his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Harkins. We'll take just a minute. Senator McMahon, for what purpose?
I rise for introductions at the appropriate time.
It is appropriate time. Introduction of guests.
In the West Gallery today, Lee County Justice Court Judge, Position 1, Stacey Bevel's with us today. In addition, we have some future attorneys with us. We have some law school students. I would ask them to stand. Miss Anna Hutchison, Grace Lowry, Lori Donald, Wyatt Eaton, Caleb Wood, and Davis McWhorter. I ask the Senate to give all of these individuals a warm Senate welcome.
Any other introductions? Senator Younger.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the West Gallery, my youth court justice judge is Allison Kaiser. Senate, please give her a big warm thank you.
Senator England,
Introduction, Mr. President.
please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator McMahon introduced this young lady with her group, but on behalf of Senator Daniel Sparks and I, who went to law school with her father, I'd like to introduce a Student Association senator from Mississippi State University, Miss Anna Hudson. Anna, thank you for being here.
Senator Ladner.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the West Gallery, I have Mr. Trent Farr from Hancock County Youth Court Judge. Please stand. Y'all give him applause.
Nice to see you again, Trent. Welcome, Senator Barrett.
Introduction, Mr. President.
Almost missed that.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, if you will help me welcome, in the South Gallery, we have with us a former classmate of myself and Senator McConn's, Ms. Jamie Hardison, if you'll stand. Judge Hardison is a youth court judge in Covington County and has served in that respect for quite a while now.
Senator Wiggins, you're recognized for announcement, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Judiciary A will meet at 5 p.m. in room 216. And for the members, the bill has been filed, and I would encourage you, and you are welcome to look at the bill. And we will be adjourning for our Judd A committee meeting at 5 o'clock in room 216.
Senator Norwood, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. President, adjourn in memory.
Please proceed.
When the Senate adjourned today, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Nathan Wells, the young man that transitioned on the coast.
Senator Brumfield.
Today, thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we adjourn in the memory of President Sam Hall, who was one of our supervisors. He was also the president of our credit union and just a wonderful pastor, wonderful person. So I ask that we remember him this evening.
Senator Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adjourn in memory.
Please proceed.
I'd like to send it to adjourn in the memory of Robert Smith III, a cousin of mine that passed away 2 weeks ago at the age of 46.
Senator Harkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. My motion is we recess until the conclusion of the Judd A committee.
One moment, Senator. I'm sorry, Senator Simmons, do you have your light on there?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Adjourn in
You're
memory.
recognized. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. As members of the Senate know, I like to adjourn in memory of Representative Bo Brown, who actually transitioned since the last time we was here.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Seymour,
Adjourn in memory, Mr.
please
President.
proceed.
When the Senate adjourns today, I'd like for it to adjourn in the memory of Mr. Wynn Alexander of Wiggins, Mr. Robert Johnson of Woolmarket, Mr. Paul Broussard of Ocean Springs, and on behalf of Senator Delano and myself, Mr. R.B. Bryant of Biloxi, Ms. Liz Sturdivant of Biloxi, and also Mr. Joseph Beausarge of D'Iberville.
Senator Tate. Senator Barrett,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Adjourn in memory.
please proceed.
On behalf of Senator Berry and I'm sure the entire Senate, I would like to adjourn in the memory of Representative Price Wallace.
Senator Barnett,
Thank you, Mr. President. Adjourn in memory.
please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. When the Senate adjourns today, I will ask that we adjourn in the memory of Miss Dorothy Floyd and her son, a friend of mine, Mr. Joseph Lindsay, whose mother and father passed away within a month of each other, and also former attorney for the town of Heidelberg, Miss Barbara Thatch.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, anyone else? Seeing none. Senator Harkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion is we recess until the conclusion of Judd A committee meeting.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We stand in recess. Any cut on there, please, sir? I'd like to call Senate back to order. First, I'd like, before we get into all the rest of it, I'd like to see if there are any other announcements for anyone that has passed that anyone would like to make at this time. We covered some of those before in the earlier session, but before we start all of this, Senator Williams, start with Senator Turner Ford on resolutions for someone who has passed. Senator Turner Ford is recognized. I'm sorry, she's moved up. Mr. Clerk, she's moved up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President, for an adjourn in memory.
Yes, ma'am.
When the Senate adjourns today, I request we adjourn in memory of Mr. Cleophas Witherspoon, who was a resident of Clay County, West Point. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rhodes.
Adjourn in memory.
Please proceed, sir.
When the Senate adjourns today, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Robert Laird. My father-in-law passed away yesterday about 6:15.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Senator. Senator Barnett. Adjourn in memory.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a correction to the previous adjourn in memory that I did earlier today. The correct name was Jackie Thatch, not Barbara Thatch.
Thank you very much. Senator Williams.
And adjourn in memory, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
I'd like to ask when the Senate adjourns today, we adjourn in the memory of Mrs. Molly Connard. She died, she's from Maben, Mississippi, and died in May. She was my aunt. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Dupree.
Mr. President, join in memory for
Please proceed.
my first cousin who passed yesterday, Michelle Lott.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hobson.
Adjournment in memory.
Please proceed, sir.
On behalf of Senator Simmons, Derek Simmons, and myself, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Mrs. Janice Wyatt of Cleveland, Mississippi, wife of former Delta State President Kent Wyatt.
Thank you. Senator Harkins.
Adjourn in memory.
Please proceed, sir.
When the Senate adjourns today, I ask they adjourn in memory of Ms. Ginger Bernard, passed away a few weeks ago, and also Ms. Terry Lee Clayton, passed away about a month ago.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, we have a motion sufficient to pass. Senator Wiggins.
Thank you, Mr. President. My motion is that we suspend the rules for immediate consideration of Senate Bill 2001.
The motion is to, I'm sorry, Senator, would you repeat that, please? Motion is to
suspend unanimous consent to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of Senate Bill 2001.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are handing out a synopsis and a summary of the bill. And Mr. President, my motion at this time would be to call up the committee substitute in lieu of the original bill. Mr. President, I think I apologize. I forgot to ask that the title be read.
Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Senate Bill 2001, the Mississippi Youth Court Reform Act of 2026.
Make the usual motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, Senator.
And Mr. President, I would like to call up the committee substitute in lieu of the original bill.
You're recognized, Senator.
Thank you. And be allowed to explain.
You're recognized to explain the committee substitute, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, what's being handed out to you are the synopsis of the bill. And just to explain, the synopsis is of the bill that was filed. We do have the committee substituted. There were a few technical amendments that were made in committee, and I will briefly explain the synopsis. Mr. President, I do understand we have one or two amendments at the desk. So for the benefit of the body, the bill that's before you is the conference, 80%, I shouldn't say 80%, I said 65 to 70% is the conference report that we had at the end of session, okay? And with the governor's call, what the governor has done, or what the call says, is it's provided appointment of chancellors in specific locations, which I'll go over in a minute, and it also has truancy in the bill, which is towards the end of the section, towards the end of the bill. And just to kind of take the truancy part of it first, the truancy, as you know, we have addressed truancy last year in a couple different ways. And what this is doing, based on recommendations that were made to us to allow truancy to be handled by the youth courts. That is, right now, they're spread in different jurisdictions, and this will allow the youth court judges to handle those items, to handle truancy. And as one of the judges said in the hearings, truancy is the first sign of problems, actually. So we're doing that. A thing to know about the bill is while the bill does go into effect, the bill itself goes into effect on passage. However, most of the provisions take effect July 1st, 2027. And what that means is we'll be back here in January. We will obviously have a budget session in the meantime. The repealers, which have been the subject that really has brought us here, those are addressed in the bill as it was in the conference report, extending those repealers for to 2029. That will allow the courts to operate, that will allow the youth courts to operate, and the situation which I guess had precipitated this special session will be addressed. Now, when it comes to the provisions related to the chancellors, if you recall, when I presented the report during the session, the chancellors, the governor's plan was that we have chancellors to address in places that we have youth court, county youth courts. A lot of this is based on the recommendations and the hearings that we had on there. As y'all probably heard me state, we have 82 different types of jurisdictions going on. We're trying to get to the uniform court system, and really, when you break this down, it's the hybrid plan like we had in the conference report, but we have 8 positions that the governor appoints in the districts. And let me say this is based on the chancery districts as we redistrict them starting in 2027. And the bill adds a new chancellor who is known as the youth court chancellor in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 9th, 15th, and 18th chancery districts. All right, for those county courts where there are no chancellors right now, the county courts can choose to, and when I say the county courts, I'm talking about the supervisors, can choose to opt out, and they continue to operate like they've been operating. And that is in 2028, they have to let us know. The whole purpose of this is for us meaning the state, to step up and take on the responsibility to address the youth court matters that we have we've been having to face. All right, so commensurate with this, there'll be a appropriation package to address a number of different things. That's to come to you before a separate bill. However, in general, the call and the legislation is that we have a package that money will be appropriated to upgrade Oakley, to address diversion programs in the bill, to provide to provide certainly a study, but also to place juveniles in a facility as needed and also to address the county's needs by having a per diem that is at $100 capped for the counties to do that. That's on the appropriation side. I will remind everybody that as was in the conference report, the referee system that's in place, that was been recommended by experts and all the folks that we've heard from, that the referee system, that includes the youth court task force that we had, that the referee system is not working. And as the governor said in his press release, the children that we are working towards to address their safety, their health, it is for us to do this with this bill. So the summary does a good job at laying out much of where the bill stands. As it pertains to the confidentiality that we talked about during the regular session, same provisions as we had in the conference report, and those items haven't changed on that. So with that, Mr. President, I'll be happy to take any questions. I do know that there's a couple of amendments.
I think we have 3 amendments, but before we get to that, there's questions on the bill. Okay, we need to adopt this. Yeah, be a motion.
Mr. President, my motion is to adopt the committee sub.
Motion is to adopt the committee sub. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senator? We're on amendments.
I'm sorry.
I think we're on amendments. Senator England, for what purpose?
I have an amendment at the proper time, Mr. President.
Would you proceed forward? I think we have 4 or 5, Senator England. If you bring it to the front, please, so they'll put you in line for the amendments. Thank you very much. Senator McCon, for what purpose, sir?
Questions. I'm sorry, I got a little confused there. We're on questions now, correct?
Yes, sir. We were on questions, and I didn't see your light, so I apologize. If you have a question, you're please welcome to address it to the senator. We're getting amendments ready, Senator.
All right, very good.
Senator Wiggins, will you yield for a question?
I do.
Senator McCon is recognized for questions on this bill.
Mr. Chairman, I do appreciate your vigor and your stamina on this, because this has gone on for many years. And I don't think there's a person in here that's not going to say that they're for their kids, and being sure that what happens here is in the best interest of those children. I do have some questions about how this thing is structured. And I understand that there's not going into effect till 27. We got plenty of time then to do this, but I also think we have plenty of time to do this then too. But line 440, there's a reference to diversion. And an individual with authority, who would that person be as an individual with authority on line 440 there? Who would approve the diversion?
Well, the diversion, so I should say this, the diversion is under the, and I appreciate you bringing that, one of the things that we've heard is that Mississippi has not had provisions for diversion. And as I think it was Senator Barnett brought up during the committee, our goal is to try to keep these young folks out of the system per se. And so when you say, if you're looking at 440, diversion means a decision made by an individual with authority that results in specific official action. So under the chancellors that are there, that would be the youth court chancellors. Under the county court systems, that obviously would be them as well. There's the intake. We do have the intake procedure that was the same one we had in the conference report, where we've transferred the intake procedure over to AOC to address and assess as the kids come into the system.
I guess I'm confused there because diversion happens before anything's even petitioned to the court, in which case the court wouldn't even know that there's a petition or even a matter out there.
Well-
So I think we've kind of gotten a little ahead of that here, because the way that I've read this is that a report comes in, an intake officer reviews it and decides whether there's enough to then send it on up the line, or they have the ability here to then to divert the case for monitoring, which never even gets to the court system. Am I missing that, or is that right?
So part of this is the Child Protection Services, depending on how it comes. Part of it's the youth court prosecutor. And if you look at 446, like you said, line 446, the goal of diversion shall be to prevent further involvement of the juvenile or child in the formal legal system. That's what diversion is.
So the person in authority here would not even be the judge, it would be the person prior to that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it does say the authority that results in specific official action of the legal system not being taken. So we're saying that the legal system's not taking any action there. So just trying to clear that one up.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the diversion program.
You and I have had a little discussion about this, and I told you we'd discuss it further on the floor, but the Family Master System on 528. I have some confusions on that in my own system, my own small mind here, but in my district we've got 7 counties now, and we do reference in there that upon determination of need, the Chancery District may seek the appointment of a family master under 95255 to assist with effectuating the purposes of this act. I also know that there's some discussion as to special masters. Will the chancellor still have the authority to appoint a special master, or are we saying that you have to now have a family master, in which case there's a whole other set of rules?
Well, okay, so part of the reason, and it's been explained this through the governor's office, the chancellor is a constitutional court, and through that, obviously, they have the inherent authority to make the appointments. And the family master is already in statute to use the family master to assist and to deal on those situations. So, that's how that would work.
But yet we have to have authority given and consent given by the Supreme Court, from what I read in 95255, that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has to approve any appointment of a family master. So I have no assurance and no guarantee at any point in there that we're going to be able to get, it's very difficult for any judge to get across 7 counties, and my district is not the only one out there that's so large. So I have grave concerns. If you put 1 over 2 counties or whatever it may be, I don't know how in here we're going to be sure that a family master is appointed. We're saying the Supreme Court has the ultimate authority and not we as the lawmaking body. So I have concerns about that, especially over that district, among others. The other question I've got is, we're talking about family masters. Generally, a family master is paid by the county. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The family master is generally paid by the county.
As far as I understand, that's correct.
And then if it's split between 2 counties, the fee is paid by the 2 counties. So we're not putting that back on the state. And then lastly, the 48-hour rule says that you've got to have an order in place within 48 hours. The family master's authority actually is only to do a recommendation to the chancellor, which is then just an initial on an order that then goes to the chancellor. So within 48 hours, they're going to have their hearing of whatever it may be, shelter hearing, whatever it may be, do their recommendation in writing, initial it after approval, and then get it to a chancellor and whatever it is in the district. I understand we're saying that it could be any chancellor in the district, but at the end of the day, that's going to be problematic. It always is when you have a family master that's going to have the first level of approval on that. So that's a concern I've got on that one, and I appreciate you discussing that with me, because I do think those are points that maybe if this passes before 27, we got to figure out.
Well, yeah, we can certainly. Those are. You said it well. Yes, we can address those things should that come up. And the point. Look, we're here. You know this, Senator McCon. We're in a situation that we need to address, and we will be here in January to get these things tweaked out, sorry about that. But again, as I said earlier, July 1st, 2027 is when most of this goes into effect.
As we move on down, I do have some more questions there, and I think there's another point in here that we need to look at on 575. I think we've got some conflicting language on the county court prosecutor. County prosecuting attorney shall serve as youth court prosecutor, which is in direct conflict to another part in the actual bill, in which case a youth court prosecutor could be the county court prosecutor or someone else hired by the county or appointed by the court. So I don't think that, I think that's in conflict with some of the rest of ours. Would you not consider that, please? As you,
Which line are you looking at?
575.
The county prosecuting attorney shall serve as the youth court prosecutor, which is already current law, and that says in delinquency cases.
But previous in your definitions, it says the youth court prosecutor shall either be the county prosecuting attorney or a prosecutor, someone appointed by the court there or hired by the court to do it. So I think we've got a conflict there we need to look at.
Okay.
So as we move on down, I do have some questions about CPS. Seems like we're shifting a lot of burden to CPS, and we're giving them a lot of confidence in their actions. Because at the end of the day, we're putting CPS attorneys in to initiate a lot of cases. Are we going to be hiring a bunch of CPS attorneys?
Well, Senator McCon, so a couple things on that. In terms of the attorneys, we have over the last couple years funded CPS attorneys, also through the Attorney General's office. The feedback that has gone on is that's been a successful process. Okay, so that certainly is something that we would be looking at. Okay, and then in terms of in terms of CPS's authority and all that, I mean, they already have the authority. This is trying to address the system. I would disagree that we're giving them all this authority. What we're trying to do is bring accountability, bring discretion, and as the governor said in his press comments, that these children have full-time judges that are addressing their needs. We have a problem. We have an issue that we need to do, and as I said in committee, the state, honestly, for a long time has not addressed this to be kind, and we're trying to shift much of this to the state off the county's backs. Okay, this is the structure that the governor has proposed when it comes to that, so that we can address these children that are in these situations. And while I think the structure is important and the issues you're raising are important, the outcomes are not where they need to be. And that's what we're trying to address with this.
I appreciate you taking me that. I don't think I could have teed that up any better. I think at the end of the day, could we have not already done some of the things in here and given the resources to those that are out there making the decisions and gotten those outcomes, instead of now saying that we're going to blame you as a judge and say that you were the ones that were wrong on this? If we'd have given them the detention facilities or given them the $100 a day situation, I think we potentially could have those people and have put those kids up where they can get the treatment and the care they need, and not blame it on the judges here.
Senator McConnell, I want to be clear. Not one time have I blamed this on the judge. Okay, I want to be clear that we're here on the governor's call. Okay, we're here because of the situation that we find ourselves in. At no point have I blamed any judge, and no point is this bill blaming any judge. And I've talked to plenty of judges on this. I have stood up here and said this is a systemic issue. Okay, and I have said, as I told specific judges today, yes, the legislature hasn't done it to the level that they said. I have been told over 2 years we're operating in a system that y'all set up and you haven't given it. If nothing else, the youth court support funds are $2.5 million. That ain't enough. And I'm sitting here saying that, but you know what we're doing with this? Guess what? Chairman Wiggins, this legislature, the governor, the speaker have all said, you know what, we're coming with a multi-million-dollar package to help you. And this is but we also said we are not investing in a system that's not working. And so to your point about should we have done it? Probably. But I've been here, we haven't been here for 30 years, you and I. And so, yeah, it probably should have. But you know what? We're under the Olivia Wilde lawsuit. We spend millions and millions of dollars under that. Our sheriffs are complaining that they have no place to put these folks running around, and we're providing that. So if people want to blame somebody, blame the legislature, but I'm standing here presenting to y'all a bill and a plan to give the youth court judges, our kids, and our agencies multi-millions of dollars to address this situation.
My question now would be, how many beds are we going to have? If I remember correctly, we're saying we're going to have the counties pay $100 for a state institution.
The counties are capped, right? The counties are capped at $100, which, as I understand, they don't have a place to put them. There's the facilities. So what the state is saying is we will cover everything above $100 to help the counties out.
Where are the state institutions that we're talking
That's
about?
the part of the appropriation to go to DPS, DHS, to look at those facilities and determine where's the best place for them. Now, that's what I call pre-petition. I should say this, that after the adjudication, the governor's call and plan is millions of dollars to upgrade Oakley, to go from 30 beds as it is now, and they get turned down to go up to 65, 70. The lieutenant governor toured Oakley to determine what we need. So we are stepping forward with this package to present and address this situation.
And I totally agree with you. I appreciate you going pre-petition or pre-adjudication on this. Oakley has been a problem for a long time, but the problem with Oakley is that there were beds out there, and at points where I know that there were kids sitting in detention facilities for months and months and months on end, and finally being turned
And
loose.
that's not right. And that's not right.
Because Oakley, and this is going back to an accountability. If we're going to have accountability on one, we're going to have accountability on everybody. Because if we're going to sink it in there, do we not need to provide and make sure that there's some accountability, that we're not saying, no, we're going to push your kids back, you keep them in detention, when we really need to put them in Oakley?
Yeah, you're talking about at the Oakley facility in DHS?
Right.
Yes. And it's a similar that goes back, but we, the state, need to do that. And I think with this, yes, we can do that. You know how we budget doing those things to make sure that they're doing that. And the point of this is that to do those upgrades, to provide the facilities so that these counties and these localities can have a place to send these folks. And let me say, I know we're talking about that, but in this bill, which was the conference report, there's all kinds of diversion. I can go into that. But I don't want anybody to think, we're only here to lock up and do that. We're trying to keep them out of the system and provide them the assessments and the resources that the children need. And this is about the children.
And I would,
and the youth.
I'll be honest with you. If we split off all that, I'd be beating the drum with you. I would. The other concern I've got a question on is, we're looking at this, and when you're creating the Chancery District, you're putting the new chancellor in there, or division, the youth court division in the Chancery.
Right.
You're saying one court administrator for each district. Have we gotten any analytics on whether that's even possible for one person to run 7 counties worth of youth court intakes?
There are not analytics to that degree, no, or to that degree. Again, as I said in committee, that's a valid question. We will be here in January to do that. The chancellor positions funding for that do not go in. That's not in this package. That's going forward. I think all of that is viable. And as I said in committee, this is the This is the starting point for us, the legislature, to go forward and address these things. And so I have, certainly as long as I'm here, we're going to be looking at those things. And if that is something that we need to do, I certainly am willing to do that.
Last question, I promise. There's a notation of a no contact where no person, no entity, no intake officer, no one can contact or talk to the judge. One of the things that I think we're missing maybe is the accountability measure where the chancellors are being held to the standard of watching the youth court itself and making sure that if there's a report, that report is done within those 14 days, because that's the person that we're putting over it. So at some point, there's got to be some type of report, some type of contact, a notification that there's a report that's been made. Chancellor, we've got a report. You don't have to put anything else on there. Is the report made at this time? Or there's been a recommendation within those 14 days to the youth court prosecutor or to the CPS attorney, in which case they can start the timeline. We did this with circuit courts whenever we had individuals in jail. And we said that, it's up to the circuit court to manage and make sure that those individuals will receive the hearings they were supposed to have. And maybe that's an area where we're overthinking this to a point where no contact, but you don't even know what's going on. So
Senator, I think that falls under the other ones. I think those are points. I think we could certainly be accused of overthinking things at time around this building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vice Chair, I appreciate your passion and you standing up for the district and the things that you've done on this.
Thank you, Senator McCon. Senator Sparks, for what purpose, sir?
A question, Mr.
Are
President.
you for a question, Senator?
I do.
Senator Sparks is recognized for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the work that you're doing and to a great degree that you're asking this body to do, and that the governor has called in a 24-hour period of time of a bill that I didn't have a chance to read, that a lot of judges are frustrated. The intent is that we get a uniform system to get us out from under. Well, I'm trying to throw you a bone, I promise. The attempt is to get us out from under Olivia White. That the entirety of our work has been to get us to a point where we can get out from under that. Is that fair? With all the criticism that we're going to get or not get, is that the ultimate goal, that we're trying to do what's best for the state, but that also would get us to a point maybe to get out from under Olivia White?
Yes, and this is, I would say this is one of the most significant pieces of reform to get us to that point. I mean, and I'll be, because I've worked on it, I think you've worked on it. In essence, we've piecemealed, okay? We've piecemealed from attorneys to indigent representation, and this is the most significant piece of reform to get us to that goal, that we can do that. And it's about being frustrated. This is what I want to say. Look, I talked to somebody. We're all frustrated. We're all frustrated. We were all scattered around. And there's no doubt about that. And the judges are frustrated. I've had that conversation. But we're here. And this is about these youth and children that we're having to, that needs to be addressed. And the big picture is we need to do this for the children. And we have that obligation. And so my point is, we're frustrated. It's late now, but we're here. The governor called us here. And so we need to do our duty from that standpoint.
And as far as the Olivia White, do you know what we spend annually roughly on that?
I'm not going to give you, it's millions of dollars. I'll defer to the appropriation chairman, but it's also been going on for probably at this point 20 years now that we continue to have to pay for.
All right. And then from the functionality standpoint, there's a couple of numbers issues, because I just want to make sure, to be fair, we're spending a bunch of money to run the system we're running because we're still under Olivia White. We're fixing to spend a bunch of money to hopefully get to a position we're not spending that money under Olivia White.
I think that's a fair statement. I don't think anybody's happy with the price tag, but it's a core function of government that we have to address. And yes, you know, sometimes, what's the old saying? You got to spend money to make money. So you got to spend money so you can get out from under that and save it in the long run.
For the local functions, and I have a district similar to Senator McConn's where I have 8 counties in my chancery and I have 1 county court who operates as a youth court and I think has done a strong job. So in a 7-county situation with special masters, because you would have to have a special master to meet your obligations under timeliness. Again, I want to clarify, is that appointed by the chief chancellor?
The chief, under the Chancery District, that's how that usually works, yes.
All right. Does that have to have the Supreme Court sign off on it?
No,
Or-
that part, no.
Okay, so they can appoint masters because I don't
Yeah,
need
it's in it.
7 special masters, or we get right back to a referee situation, but it may be that they can handle multiple counties, because ultimately the counties are going to want to know what's this going to cost us. And because they're responsible for that special master, correct?
Well, yeah, but I want to say that you're right, but this is to, I'll put it this way, if they elect the chancellor position and what the governor's proposed here is it will take a fair amount of that burden off the counties to do that. And
But-
so, I
but-
mean, that's by having the chancellors, the state is picking up that tab, if you will, as somebody asked in committee, in perpetuity. And so, yes, we're addressing that off the counties.
All right, but they're responsible for the special masters, counties.
When we were discussing in committees, the state could pay for that.
Okay, all right. I just didn't know which way it was written. What is the scope of the special master? And I think this goes back to Senator McConn's question, because I'll have one chancellor in the first, that's the youth court chancellor, to handle 7 counties, and special masters can handle these emergency proceedings. But is there any other scope they have other than temporary shelter hearings?
Well, sure, I think under the guise of the chancellor to do that. They're able to do that, just like, you know, I guess a family master from that standpoint. So, yes, they have that to handle those duties.
Okay, so assuming a county court opts out of this system, so they're going to continue to operate, what is analogous for a county court judge for a special master? We
I
don't
don't think I
forbid
understand
that,
your
do we?
question.
Well, I mean, if I have a county court judge who's handling youth court matters in a very large populous county, they may not can handle all of the emergency
Right.
hearings. Do they have statutory authority to be able to assign something?
The special masters.
Yes.
I think, and I guess to the point about we were at the referees, I've talked about that, it's the special masters.
But if we eliminate referees, I just want to make sure county courts are not held at a disadvantage.
Correct.
That if they're going to have a similar person like a special master, that we're not forbidding it, because we are forbidding referees.
Right, but we're not, right. We are not, with this bill in general terms, we are not holding them to a different standard. In fact, the whole point, as proposed by the governor's office, the opt-out is so that counties that they can do what they want, they can continue operating and be given the resources that they need.
Now, on the detention piece, and there's a facility in Alcorn County that does detention, and I don't know what they charge per day, but my understanding is the bill has a cap on what a county would have to pay. Is that also true if they're not in a state facility, if they're going to
It is state facilities.
Okay, so it
It's a
has
state-
nothing to do with the relationship between a county taking their people to a county-run youth detention facility?
Correct.
Okay,
The
when-
state facility, and part of the appropriation package and through DPS and DYS is for them to assess the facilities throughout the state so that we can do that. And my total expectation is that, you know, even as early as January, we come back and they say, here's these facilities, this is what we need, this is where the budget is, these are the facilities we can use and all that.
Okay, I just want to be very clear, we're not capping what a county can charge another county
Yeah,
to use
that's-
their detention facility.
There's nothing in the
All
bill
right,
to that.
Just making sure.
To that.
Closing the hearings and now opening the hearings, you can go back and have them closed with a specific finding, is that correct?
That's correct.
do you see a problem if somebody's handling 40 to 50 cases a week that they're having to have additional hearings on every case to close? In other words,
No,
what-
I mean,
Okay.
no, I don't. This is, again, the chancellors, the current chancellors that we all know, have that ability to do that. And so, and they have their dockets and all. If I understand your question, no, I don't think that's a problem, and they would be very capable of doing that.
But currently, default is closed, correct?
Correct.
Now default is open. So if I've got 18 matters on the docket and one is open, and then we have to have a hearing to close it, do we see any problem there that half of my hearings are closed and half of them are open?
No, because that's what goes on in other courts, in other chancery courts. If you're talking about a workload, that it's adding the workload, that's why the judges have a lot of discretion on how they manage their workload and their caseload and all of that.
Okay, the last part, and I want to make sure I understand this, we're changing the intake process. Currently, is that intake process local to the county?
It is, and that we are changing that, as was in the conference report, to AOC to be state employees. And as we discussed in committee, that's where it begins from an assessment standpoint, mental health assessment standpoint. Let's look at that. That will be state appoint, that each chancery district has an intake officer and an intake division to do that. And so that is a state, under the bill, that's a state process. And that gets us to a version of the unified court system and a unified youth court system, which, for those that don't know, this has been coming around, this has been tried going back probably 20 years. It's been recommended from the court and others to have a unified system, and that is getting us to that point.
So the intake officer currently is a cost to the county?
Correct.
So that's another cost the state's
That
going to
we,
pick
the
up?
state, would budget and handle.
Okay. I do have, and I know we can come back in January, but I have great concern about the word diversion.
About the what?
The word diversion.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what DHS is going to cost to run a proposed diversion program?
Well, let me say this. In the bill, and this was in the conference report, there is significant diversion programs and solution or options in there. And so that's spelled out in the bill and obviously in the statute. So it's not left up to just what may happen. It's actually spelled out and it's in the bill.
But I mean, do we have a cost?
Okay, let me ask that. In terms of running it, the way I'll answer it this way. So for a number of years, DHS has come to us asking for around $9 million for diversion. They did that last year. In the appropriation package that we have, it would be that amount for the diversion to address that and help. That is the funding request that was made by DHS certainly this year.
Who will oversee that $9 million?
Well, that would, like any money going to DHS, I mean, we would in that sense, but it goes to DHS.
Does not flow through AOC?
No, and we'll address the funding package, but it would be, no, it wouldn't go to AOC for that diversion part.
All right, well, there's $9 million we currently budget to AOC for diversion, for intervention.
Okay.
And of that $9 million, which is supposed to go to the felony adult intervention courts, $2.25 million of that is currently carved out for youth and family intervention courts. So are we going to end that?
So
program?
that was I think you had a hand in helping us address that during the appropriation process at the end of the session. That was, my understanding is we were successful in getting that attention. We need to continue to work on that.
Well, I'm just saying there's $2.25 million Currently, we just appropriated again to youth and family courts, and here we are talking about a unified court and talking about diversion and talking about DHS needing $9 million. Well, it sounds like they don't need but 7.75. Or 6.75, excuse me, because there's 2.25 currently. I just want to make you aware, because you're subcommittee chair of that.
I get it, but I've been working on this, and the appropriation is 9 o'clock at night, but,
Well, the diversion piece, we don't need another diversion court. We don't need another group of administrators. We don't need another kingdom. If we're really talking about the children, and we're really talking about the people in these programs, the money needs to go to them.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure, whatever we're doing at DHS with diversion, we don't repeat what we've done. And then also we look at the $2.25 million that's being pulled out of adult felony intervention court to go to family and youth intervention courts if we are running a unified system.
Right.
Thank you.
Points well made.
Thank you, Senator Sparks. Senator Gillespie Isom, you're recognized for what purpose, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. President.
What purpose, ma'am?
Question.
Pardon me?
Question.
We have a question. Senator Wiggins, will you yield for a question?
I do.
Senator, you're recognized for a question on this bill.
Okay. I wanted to ask, first of all, what counties is Oakley covering?
Well, Oakley is a state facility.
Where is it located?
You know, Hines County, thank you.
Okay. And through the state, do we have like these facilities all over the state?
Well, that's been part of the issue, Senator, and what's been told to us is there's a problem that some places don't have that, some places, so in short, no. And to build those is expensive. The funding package here is to allow the governor's office through the executive branch to look into that, and my understanding is there may be some facilities that DPS has or they know of, and we can utilize that. But I do think the long-term plan is we need to be looking at where that can be, where those can be.
Okay. I also heard you mention that the Oakley had like 30 beds.
Yes.
So how are we preparing for the number of youth that may go into a facility?
Into that facility? Well,
or into facilities, period?
Well,
Because if you only got 30
yeah,
beds.
the Oakley, okay, and through the process, that's what I call a post-adjudication that the judge determines they need to be sent to Oakley. That's going to be upgrades to Oakley to get it to that position. DHS has made that request during the budget process. So the governor has put in this call to come forward with that. You add that plus the other facilities we're talking about and the per diems, then we're trying to address that presently. Now, I think those upgrades will take a little bit for sure.
Okay, so I guess I'm thinking somewhat of a medical term also, just like triage in the hospital and all. So if we've got more cases coming in, then what do we do with the kids if we only have like the, limited amount of beds?
If I understand your question, I think that, there's going to be a transition period here. I mean, what we're being told and what heard is that, those kids are being released. Those that should be in those positions because they don't have the places they should be, they're being released back, or they're in facilities that with adults and things like that, and they can't be there. So this is not something that we can dig out of immediately. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay. And also, according to the number of children that we have in the facilities, are we looking at the medical personnel that we have in there to accommodate the appropriate number?
Yeah, that's part of that would be part of the situation, because you can't, and I don't know all the rules and regulations, but you can't house the kids in those facilities and not provide those things.
Okay, you don't
Which
know-
is part of the cost, which is part of the reason on the cost, which is an issue for these
Okay.
counties.
Do you know the ratio of?
I don't. I don't.
Okay. And will these facilities remain with the state, or will they become prioritized?
As far as the bill says, state facilities.
Okay. All right, and last one. About how many facilities do we have throughout the state?
I don't have a specific number, but we're not many that are able to be used. I can say that. That's part of the issue why we're here on this big package of reforms, is to address that.
It seems like we have a lot of, unanswered and unknowns in order to pass something without having.
Well, again, the appropriation bill is not before us. This is just the enacting legislation for different reforms. The appropriation will be handled by the Appropriations Committee. And so,
Yeah, but I'm looking at it from a safety standpoint as well.
right. But things are unsafe right now if you talk to these local areas.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what we're trying to address. Thank you.
Other questions? Other questions on the bill? Senator Simmons, for what purpose, sir?
Question, Mr. President.
Will you yield for a question, Senator?
I do.
Senator Simmons recognized for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator, for yielding. Chairman, I attempted to raise some questions, and I wanted for you to consider some substantive amendments in committee, and I didn't have that opportunity. So I guess I have to reserve my time now, if you would allow me. I've always had concern about the proposal to take judicial oversight away from the earliest part and the most critical part of the process dealing with our abused and neglected children in the system, which is the intake system. Could you tell me if we have any evidence that demonstrates that removing the oversight from our judges regarding intake and actually making it more of an executive function with the agency, if there is any evidence that support that this is the right thing to do?
Well, Senator, I would say this. I think I understand that situation. I understand how it's set up, but the consultants, everybody that's been involved with this, I think there's been some lawsuits over it. The point is that like you said, an executive function, that's what's been made. It's been under the judiciary, and again, not that that's anybody specifically is doing anything wrong, but that raises issues. And in in pretty much every other state, as I understand it, you have that basic separation of powers. And so, yes, it is an executive function from that, and the judicial branch serves as an arbiter in that,
And I guess one concern I have, and I've talked to a lot of my judges back home, is I reviewed the Olivia Wise report from August of 2025, and they did talk about some of the improvements, Chairman Wiggins, that we had gained as a state. And a lot of the improvements, based upon what I read, were the improvements that were basically a result of what our youth court judges were doing. And a lot of the challenges that still remain, whether it was investigations, it was whether or not it was understaffing at the agency to handle some of these cases, it was basically at the agency level. So here's my question. The overall bill shifts a lot of the responsibilities away from our judges and basically transfer those responsibilities again to the actual agency. Are we sure that the agency, in light of the August 2025 Olivia Y report that we all received, is the agency ready to handle the caseload and all of the additional responsibilities that are contemplated in this legislation?
My short answer to that is I think they're extremely aware of what has to be done and what's required of them. But the fact, I think it was Senator Sparks, we are still under Olivia Y.
Yeah.
We are trying to do, and as I said, this is the most significant reform to take a step to get us out from under it and to provide these children, these youth, with a properly functioning system. And again, nobody's, I recognize, I've said that the system under which the judges and others were operating, it wasn't, it wasn't fair from the state side. I get it, but we're here. That's what we're trying to do. That's what the governor has called us here to do. And, we have to get out from under Olivia White. We have to do these reforms. And by the way, my understanding from the hearings we had and the information that's been presented, by the way, and I'll get to that in a minute, is we're the only state that has a system like that. And to that point, on your desk, on everybody's desk, is letters of support, which y'all are, or I certainly know you're familiar. The CASA, Council of Juvenile Justice Administrators, Family Justice Group, National Association of Counsel for Children, the Council of States Governments Justice Center. This packet is of all these experts in this field who say we need to do this. They are calling on us to stand up for our children. And I know they're from outside, but these people are experts in this. And we're the only state that are in that position. And that's why we're doing this. That's why the governor has called us into special session to address this. I would encourage everybody, every member, to read the packet that's before you of the letters, the Galt Center. I can go down the list because we as a state system is not doing right by these children. Again, it's not a fault of the judges. And I know I've had those conversations. We're here to try to help these children. That's why we're here on this special session. And we can get beyond the lawsuits. We can get beyond the bickering. We can get beyond the politics and help these youth and children. But read this packet that is before all of you. They tell you why we need this legislation. Thank you. And I think this is the best answer to your question. Yeah. These people.
And thank you, Chairman Wiggins, for all your leadership as this has been something that we certainly have actually been battling as a state for a long time. And as the chairman of the committee, I really appreciate your leadership. But certainly you understand the position that a lot of members are in when we are getting calls from our supervisors and our youth court judges about the overhaul of the system.
I do, Senator Simmons, and I appreciate that. But we're state officials. We're state legislatures. Again, Olivia Y., we have a duty and an obligation. And I understand it's been going on a long time. This isn't a fault of anybody. But we're here, the governor, and when you put it all together, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, the House, the Senate have come and said, we're ready to address this, whatever happened before. And we're trying to get there.
Will you consider it a friendly amendment? I know Senator Sparks raised a question about the open proceedings.
What?
The open proceedings.
Right.
Would you consider it a friendly amendment for us basically to go back to allowing our youth courts to be closed, but have findings on the record by that chancellor and or by those youth courts that continue to exist based upon their board of supervisors agreeing to fund them? Findings on the record as to why they should open them. I guess what I'm saying is, can we go back to the default of them being closed, but then have a process in place where if a chancellor or youth court judge that still exists decides to open it, that they actually placed on the record why they think that these real serious, delicate matters should be open to the public?
Senator Simmons, I would not consider it a friendly amendment, and and it's a fair question. Again, I go back to this packet of people. The confidentiality provisions that are in this bill are the same ones we had in the conference report. that we haven't changed those. I mean, you heard in committee, and I don't know how many of the members here know this, but after session, and I'm going to get a little particular, but we had 2 youth court judges who were suspended by the Supreme Court. And the reality is, and from what I've talked to the experts, the blanket confidentiality that we have, that is in the law, the system, has probably led to that, in part. And it is, Sunlight is a great check on power on anybody. And so that, all you got to do is read these letters, and they'll tell you why we need to have the openness that is in this bill. But I want to say, even that openness, it's the judges have a lot of discretion as it's laid out to run their courtrooms that way.
One more question, and I do have amendments at the appropriate time, Mr. President. On the records disclosure, I think the section is, I think section 18. Why are we removing a very critical enforcement mechanism regarding the disclosure of youth court records? I understand that the criminal penalty section, which is roughly a $1,000 fine if youth court records were disclosed, why are we removing that? Well,
I think that, as I answered in committee, that it was part and parcel of the law as it was, as I say, that was there, okay? And so the fact that it's open, and you have those, the judge has a lot of discretion over that, that's why we're doing that. Plus, I'm not sure who would prosecute that, too. I've never heard of that being prosecuted, even under the current law.
How would sensitive child welfare information regarding our children in Mississippi be secured?
I'm sorry?
How would it be secured without some kind of enforcement mechanism regarding disclosures?
Well, much of that is with the judges now, how this is. I mean, just like in a regular circuit or chancery court, you know, through various, through the contempt procedure and other things. I mean, the judges these are, you know, we've been talking about the chancellors, they have a lot of discretion from that standpoint.
And my last question, I know you mentioned about 2 judges in the state that have gone through some disciplinary proceedings with the Commission of Judicial Performance.
And that's why you have judicial performance, so the checks and balances,
yeah,
yes,
I know.
and accountability.
And they get in their due process there.
That's right.
And I asked in committee, and I just want the chamber to have the benefit of your response. And my question, why are we targeting LaFleur County and Bolivar County based upon, as you just responded, based upon what may be happening with those youth court?
Well, I don't think we're not targeting, but that's immediate in that you're getting, that area is getting chancellor, which is a full-time judge there, and we have the accountability measures built in there. We're not targeting them, but it did happen after session.
And without that language, we still would be in this legislation as proposed, providing a chancellor to handle youth court matters in those areas, correct?
Yeah, in that, yes, that's in those areas, the chancellor's there, yes.
And so my simple question is, why is that language in the bill necessary?
Well, I think because we need to stand up for our children, and we need to stand up for accountability, and we need to stand up for to let the feds know under Olivia White that we're doing things above board.
Thank you, Senator, for the hearing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Simmons. Senator Seymour, for what purpose, sir?
Question, Mr.
You have
President.
for a question, Senator?
Yes.
Senator Seymour is recognized for a question on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, around section 63 and on, I see where it talks about teen court is that a new court that we're setting up, or is it
Where are you referring?
around, line 5233?
50, okay.
5233.
233?
5233.
5233, so at the bottom.
Is that the committee substitute? I don't have, on mine that I don't have the 5233.
I'm sorry, this is the original bill. But is teen court still in this bill?
I couldn't hear.
Is teen court a
Oh,
part of
teen
this?
court?
Yes, sir.
I don't think I'm familiar. I need to look at that, but no, I don't think that's an issue.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Seymour. Senator Isom. For what purpose, ma'am?
Question?
Will you yield for a question, Senator?
Yes.
Senator Isom, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, you had asked us to look at the packets, and in looking at them, I didn't see any judges from Mississippi or any letters of support from Mississippi, and I was just wondering if we had anything.
In terms of letters, no, we've had, so in this packet, that is not there, okay? And I don't think it's any secret that, we're trying to make reforms that we have. And to Senator Simmons' question, we're the only state, as I've been informed, that operate under the structure that we have. And we need to, and we're not getting the results that we need as a general rule. So you're right, there, in this packet, there's not a letter like that.
What about just a letter that would have said we would be glad to make some changes or something?
Well, Senator, I can tell you I've spoken to many judges. I've spoken to the county court judges. I've spoken to the chancellors. I've gone to the Mississippi judges' conferences and spoke about it. And they've asked me questions, and I've been happy to speak to them. So from that standpoint, and I know the judges have talked to the individual members, and they've expressed where they are on that. And so I feel like I'm very familiar with where they are and how people feel. And we've been working on this the conference report worked on it for a while. And, but we are requested, we are being asked to do things better. And that's what reform is about.
I got that.
And I should say, there's other state entities that have asked us. They've been up here at the Capitol today asking us to support this legislation, asking the governor, supporting the governor's call on this. Everybody, and by the way, CASA that's in here is a Mississippi, we have local there.
So do you think it would have been helpful to someone like myself that's a new senator to have seen some support or something? Like you say, you've had people saying it to you, but there's nothing.
Well, the conference report, which like I said is 65 to 70% of this bill, was here during regular session. We had a 90-day session, and we all know how that ended on that. So that was all brought out then. So, we're here on the call with this.
Okay, well, thank you for taking my question.
Thank you.
Senator Hickman, for what purpose, sir?
Question, Mr. President.
Senator, will you yield for a question?
Yes.
Senator Hickman is recognized for a question on this bill.
Certainly. Thank you, Senator Wiggins, for all of your hard work on this. As you know, I have been someone who's thought that the youth court needed some overhaul and some new stuff done for a very long time. I'm just concerned, of course, at the speed in which we are doing this and what we've been handed in the last few hours. Looking in here, it looks like we're expanding or giving some extra responsibility to the county prosecutor. Is that correct, or the prosecuting attorney?
Already under the county side of things, the county prosecutor is a prosecutor in youth court.
I understand that, but as a county prosecutor, we weren't involved in like actually doing and filing the intakes and stuff like that. And I asked this question not because I don't think that county prosecutor can handle the expansion of the role. I'm asking the question to make sure that we've talked or that we've actually looked at the people who are doing this work and make sure they have the tools that they need, because I had some serious problems with my kids, with getting the key, with getting all the things I needed to be online and to be effective in that role. I mean, I think they handed me a computer that looks like it was from 1982 that I needed to use my kids on when I first became
Well,
a
that's
county
why
prosecutor.
My Kids, that's why we've
I know,
invested
we're
money
overhauling
to,
that.
right.
And that's the thing, but I'm just saying, I want to make sure that we're giving everyone in this system that we're switching roles or changing roles or adding responsibility to the tools that they need. And this may not necessarily be a question for you, but more so of something that I would like the agencies and the people who will be handling this, AOC in specific, to hear and to understand that we have to make sure that everyone has the proper tools that they need if this overhaul of this system is going to work. Otherwise, this is just a piece of paper.
I don't think, yes, I agree with you, and we're not setting up to fail, but the governor has called us here on this. The executive branch has, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they didn't want this to succeed. And so tools like that, yes, we will be working to do those.
The next thing, I think you've said quite a few times, because, I mean, a lot of the substantive questions have been raised and already asked, and I'm not going to redo that. A lot of members in this room have a lot of the same question that I have. And one of the responses that you've given is that we will be back here in January. We'll be able to correct things and tweak things. And I think people have already said it, like, if we're going to be back here in January and we can fix this before it happens, why don't we?
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go
You
ahead.
didn't get my question.
I know. Sorry.
Why couldn't we do that? My question is, what does it look like when you say, and I believe you've always been fair and honest, when you say we're going to work on this and tweak this, what does it look like from now until January? Are we seriously going to take a look at this, or are we going to say, hey, we got it done and not do anything about it? Are we seriously going to take a look? Because there are some things in here that need to be fixed. They may be small change. It may not be a structural change in the whole bill, but there's a lot of stuff in here that needs to be fixed. And I will tell you, Senator Wiggins, I've talked to you, the concept, I came in this Capitol today looking to support, but after reading this, there are some things that left me with more questions than they already asked than they did answers, and that's scary because we're moving really fast for something that's really big and really important. And I'm on your side. We need to help the children, but rushing something in this short period of time, and everybody in this room I've talked to, everybody knows that we get better legislation, we get better bills when these processes are vetted, when they go through the actual deliberate process of us sitting with them, discussing them, reading it, and doing all that. And we have not had the opportunity to do that. And I know the executive called us here, but we did not get the opportunity to take something that is a major overhaul through a real process, and that's what's most concerning to me.
Well, Senator Hickman, I mean, so we were here with the conference report all during regular session. We had committee meetings. It was 2 years ago, or certainly before that, we had studies done. We had people come in and testify. We had people, the Senator Boyd's subcommittee on women and families came in and testified. So we know the issues, and we've had that. In the regular session, we had this bill before us, and we were there presenting this bill when the things happened with the House. And so I don't think that we're rushing it. We had, it's what we've been dealing with up to this point. It's not a change. The governor has called us here, and we've got to get past the situation that we're in. Agreed. With the lawsuits, with the repealers, with those things, so that we can get here in January and address the things. And what does that look like? I will be here. Hopefully I'll be here. I know I plan on being here.
You have until January at least.
Yeah. So to deal with those, and we can, bills that are filed, we'll address them. And I think, what does that look like? This passes, the House does their job, we talk to our folks, we come in here in January, we file things Judiciary A will be here to address those things.
Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
I'm not walking away, I'll say that.
Senator Dupree, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Questions to the
You yield for a
Senator.
question, Senator Wiggins?
I do.
Senator Dupree is recognized for a question on the bill. It's the last one, Senators.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wouldn't be in your place for anything in the world right now, Senator. I'm like Senator Hickman. I think there's positive things in the bill. I think you can't do any better than have one person that's taking care of all the youth that we have to take care of in our counties. I actually come from a county, Forest County, and I was a member of the Board of Supervisors when we actually built a youth detention center. And we came under federal fire, and just recently, a few years ago, we had to spend $1 million to bring it up to speed. And we have other counties like Perry County and some of those that don't have youth court.
And that $1 million, y'all spent that?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. We spent that $1 million to do it. And we have a youth court judge, does a terrific job. She does a terrific job. My concern is like Senator Hickman's, though. If we really want to do this right, and this might be right, I mean, it may be right, but you don't get the kind of support when you call in less than 24 hours. You get here, you have 3 iterations of it, and the last one is 200. And this is not a criticism of you. It's the process. That's what I'm talking about, the process. If the process, as mayor of the city of Hattiesburg, there's no way I could have come before the city council with something to solve a lawsuit or anything else in a few hours, and given what I think, without having included many other people in there to make sure that they do it. It makes me feel that what we're leading towards, and what I'm saying, there's not that many youth court facilities or youth detention centers in the state of Mississippi. And there are many things that we are the only state that doesn't do something or does something. So this is not a one-off. There's a lot of things that we could do that we're the only state that don't do it really well. But at this point where we are now, I think that we could get buy-in on the good parts of the bill and make the bad part of the bills even better if we get other people to think about and talk about and discuss it. It makes me think that we're rushing to something like privatization because we don't have the facility, as you stated.
There's nothing in here about private, just tell me.
I'm just making a statement. I'm not asking you what it is about it. I'm speaking to say that the way we are moving with not having the facilities to correct it, and what I'm talking about is a bill that we just passed, 13 years old or whatever with a gun, you're going to go to big court. Well, you got to have somewhere to house them. Now you got to have somewhere to house them. We don't have the facilities. We don't have the facilities. The only way we can move fast enough to do that is privatization. What I'm asking you is to support giving us an opportunity to include more than the governor in this call. And I'm not saying you weren't included. You know, I don't know when you got included. It may have been last week, last month of January.
I'm like, I was at the legislative conference and got the call that to be here today.
You're like us. Join the crew.
I understand.
Join the crew. I'm saying, and I'm asking you if you would support us extending the repealer. That's the real thing that we're up against right now.
I tell you how we do that, Senator. Okay. You vote for this bill. It's in here. It's extended. We get this to the House. The House does it. The repealers are extended. The reform is done. We're on our way to getting Olivia Y significantly addressed. We're doing all of that. The governor's called us here to stand up for the children, the youth, to do that, and we can get that done. We were here. You know how we ended the session. We were here with the conference report with those repealers in there, and you know how that ended. The way we get that done is you vote for this bill. We vote for this bill because this is all of us, and we send it to the House, and we stop the lawsuits, which, by the way, the legislature's not involved in that. We stop the lawsuits, all the stuff that happened on July 1st, okay, that went to the Supreme Court, that went to the federal court. We pass this, it'll be done. My guess is, I don't have any inside information, they'll either dismiss those cases, that'll be done, and we can move on and get down to the business of helping our children. That's how we get this done. And so, yes, I'm in favor of the repealers, but I've been working, the committee's been working for some time. It's not a secret to get this done. And so that's how we get this done, and that's the fastest way. We've been here, and I'm sorry to go on, but we vote for it, we send it to the House, we can be home tomorrow.
Last question, Senator. I promise that's my last question. Has MES, MML, judicial system, any of those people been contacted and have letters of support from those groups of people, and also the judges, and those, do you have support letters or something from them saying that this is where we should go? MML,
Well, I don't know that MML is relevant because this is the counties and the chancery courts,
but
but from that
MML
standpoint.
MML also adjudicates juveniles that go to the juvenile detention center, and they pay to send them, so they do chime in. But the supervisors also chime in because they pay for the whole shebang. So
And we're trying to help the supervisors by taking some of the burden.
No, the question is, have you contacted them and they've chimed in support?
Have I called every single supervisor in 82 counties? No, I haven't.
I said MML and MES, they all both have executive directors and they have presidents. Are they aware of what we're doing and they support it?
I would hope they're aware. I don't have a letter from them, if that's what you're asking.
No, my question is, have you contacted them and are they supportive?
So,
That's the
okay,
question.
so we're here on the governor's call, okay? That's why we're here. We are here today because of the governor's call, and this is the bill that represents that call, okay? And there's special things. So has the governor done? My guess is he made that call. The governor's office made that call because what they hear, the governor's elected across the state.
Yes, sir.
Okay? I represent one district like you do. The governor represents the whole state. We're here on the governor's office's call, the governor's call. So my guess is they have heard that.
Well, the reason I asked that because you presented a number of support letters, but none from the other elected officials that have to pay the bill. That's MML, MES. They're not in here. I was just asking a simple question, but look, thank you. Again, I started this off saying I wouldn't be in your position. Now I know I wouldn't be. So God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Suber, for what purpose?
Question.
You here for a question, Senator Wiggins?
Yes.
Senator Suber is recognized for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Wiggins. Have we checked with the court about whether this will satisfy the Olivia Y lawsuit?
If what?
Have we checked with the court about whether this legislation will satisfy them and dismiss the lawsuit?
When you say that, you're talking about the federal court or the Supreme Court, or?
Well, you keep referring to Olivia Y. You keep saying this legislation will satisfy that lawsuit. Well, have we checked with the court?
I personally haven't, but when we passed the My Kids update with the new kids, I didn't go check with the court. When the Attorney General and the CPS came and asked us to fund attorneys in the youth courts to get kids through the system, I didn't go ask that. I guess the ones that would ask that is the Attorney General's office who represents us in those situations, but no, I haven't done that.
So can you tell us, how is this going to satisfy the court?
Once we get this put into place, we have made steps to bring transparency. We've made steps to bring diversion. We've made steps to balance the caseloads. As I understand, that's one of the big issues in Olivia Y. That gives the tools and the funding to the state agencies to allow those agencies to do what they need to do to get out from under Olivia Y. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm saying it's the biggest reform to that point. But we've done a lot of things leading to this point.
And so we're adding one judge to some of these districts. You're talking about 7 counties, 5 in my district. And you've stated the judges weren't the problem. But, I still haven't heard how this is satisfying the lawsuit.
I will defer. I will have you go talk to the Attorney General's office because they're the one that represents us. Now, you can talk to CPS and Commissioner Sanders. She's the one that represents the state from that angle. We're here, and the reason, again, that we're here and everything that happened July 1st, And the things that happen there, it's a legislative solution that needs to be done to address these things, and this is what's before us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Suber. Senator England, we're ready on your amendment, sir? Yes, thank you. Senator Simmons will be next. Senator England, we recognize your amendment on the bill. Senators on the screen, if you watch the screen. Senator England.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a good amendment in committee today by Senator Angela Turner Ford. We ran through it, adopted the amendment, but when we got to looking at it, there is technically a First Amendment issue that we can't avoid on this. And after talking with the attorneys, we've got just a little bit of language to add at the end of the amendment of Senator Turner Ford from committee. I don't have the committee sub in front of me, but it's amending on line 853. We're just adding at the end of Senator Turner Ford's amendment from committee, except for written order of the court for good cause. It's a simple amendment. I again will stress that I agree with what Senator Turner Ford was trying to do in the committee, which we passed, but this is to get us around, not to get us around, to make us compliant with the First Amendment. That is an explanation of the amendment, Mr. President.
Questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Wiggins, you're recognized.
Move for passage of the amendment by use of the afternoon roll call.
Senator England, that would be Senator Wiggins gets to speak on the
Thank you.
amendment.
That's correct.
Okay, here we go. Senator Wiggins.
What Senator England said.
All right. Make your motion, sir. The motion is to adopt. Yes, sir. There we go.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. My motion is simply to adopt the amendment.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator England. Senator Simmons. Senator Simmons, we have a number of ones. If you identify which one, sir. Did you have a number? One moment, please. Amendments on the screen. Senator Simmons, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, this is an amendment offered by me and Senator Pope. It pertains to the language that I raised a question about to Chairman Wiggins, that specifically in the bill writes to remove or eliminate the Bolivar County and the LaFleur County Youth Court. That's all the amendment does. And my explanation of it is simply based upon the operation of the overall bill. Youth courts are basically being abolished, and in those areas where chancellors that will actually take up youth court matters will possibly be in those areas based upon the map that we received, about 8 or 9 places in the state. Chairman Wiggins indicated that these areas will be covered. So I'm just simply asking us to do, basically remove that language that basically speaks directly to our area of the state if the bill itself is already going to cover chancellors being placed there. And so there's no need to remove or have language that specifically talks about the removal of those courts.
Thank you, Senator Simmons. Senator Turner Ford, for what purpose, ma'am?
I have a question.
For you for a question, Senator Simmons?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Turner Ford is recognized for a question on this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator, for yielding. How are these referees that are staffing these courts?
Yes.
And how are they appointed?
By those youth court judges.
By the youth court judges?
Yes, ma'am.
And so are you aware of any reason in particular why this language is in the legislation?
I'm not, other than what Chairman Wiggins said about some information that was actually publicly available regarding those 2 youth court judges actually having some issues with the Commission of Judicial Performance. They have not been removed. They are still the elected youth court, county court judges in those areas. And they do, in fact, have youth courts that's part of the county courts. And so my position or Senator Polk's position, Chairman Turner Ford, is those judges are going through a due process proceeding, but we should not attack those counties or the people in that area regarding what those particular judges may be going through a due process proceeding.
And so if they're being disciplined, allow whatever commission or process to proceed, but the post themselves should remain available for any other
That's correct.
official. Thank you.
And that's the goal of the amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Turner Ford. Any questions on the amendment? Questions on the amendment? Senator Wiggins, you recognize to speak on the amendment?
I would like to stand before you and say if the amendment passes, Senator Simmons is going to vote for the bill, but I have no assurances of that. But that being said, I think the argument, I'll let the will of the body.
Senator Simmons, you ready on the motion, sir?
I ask for support of the amendment.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Please proceed. Senator Simmons, did you have another amendment, sir?
Yes, Mr. President.
Please proceed, Senator. One moment, please, while we put it on the screen. One moment, sir. Thank you, Senator Simmons. Is on the screen. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, this amendment contains like three separate amendments I had initially, and I combined them to one. So Section 10 of the bill deals with the elimination of the Council of Youth Court Judges. And so you all know how around the state we got a council or an association for everything, MML, the Mississippi Association of Supervisors, on and on and on. And so based upon the changes that we are making in the proposal before you, I received call from some of our youth court judges that believe that their youth courts will be supported by their supervisors, and they still would like to have an opportunity to meet and associate as a council of youth court judges. I think this amendment is completely harmless. It's just allowing the council, which already exists under law regarding our existing youth court judges, for those that remain, they still should be able to associate as a council. And so that's all the amendment does. It removes Section 10 by amending that language that would strike the Council of Youth Court Judges. The second part of the amendment is striking Section 18. I raised this question to Chairman Wiggins regarding disclosure of records. There's a criminal statute that's actually in the code that speaks to if records are improperly disclosed, because as you all know, this is a very sensitive matter regarding abused, neglected children, and even in situations when we deal with our delinquent youth, you want to, as much as possible, to try to maintain the confidentiality. And so this provision, which has been enacted by this august body, has been a law for however long, is being removed in the legislation. And so this second part amends by striking Section 18. What the effect will be, it would actually allow criminal penalties to be available if there was an improper disclosure of youth court records. The last part of the amendment inserts the following language starting at line 1391. And this is the concern that I have and the concern that I've received from a lot of our youth court judges and, quite frankly, even some of our chancellors who actually do youth court. What this would do, and the language reads, no delinquency or welfare matter shall be closed, declined, or otherwise terminated without judicial review of the recommendation of the intake unit. And this is important. The youth court judge shall retain final authority over acceptance, diversion, dismissal, or petition authorization. The bill basically transfers a lot of what is in the authority of our youth court judges, or even with our chancellors that will be doing youth court work, and it places it with the agency. The only thing this language does is allows for any of these important determinations, if they are in fact made, that they are in fact made with some judicial review. That's all it does. I believe it's harmless. And for that, I'll yield to any questions, but I ask that you support the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Simmons. Questions on the amendments, on the amendment, section on the amendment. Senator Boyd, for what purpose, ma'am?
Question?
Will you for a question, Senator Simmons?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Boyd is recognized for a question on the amendment.
Can you tell me why can you go further into explanation and why you want to strike all of Section 10, please?
It was drafted by the attorneys. As I understand it, Chairman Boyd, Section 10 only deals with the removal of the Council of Youth Court Judges. That's the only thing I wanted to basically, by deleting that, it restores that council.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a second. I think we got Section 10 coming, Senate. One moment. Okay. Senate Section 10 is on the screen. Senator Boyd. Okay. Other questions on the bill? Other questions on the bill? Senator Wiggins, you're recognized to respond on the amendment.
So I'm going to ask you to vote against it. I'll state the reason why. Not that those sections through the amendment are there for a reason. First, on the first line, that was stricken and replaced by a different council that was recommended to us by the experts that came to us and testified that we need to have the diversity and the different views that we need to have. So it's not that there's no representation. It's already there's another provision on that has created a different council. On the second one, there is I'm sorry, that's the criminal record. That as I answered that question, it's the confidentiality that worked hand in hand. But that's there with the opening of the courtrooms, and then the last amendment. What that is about separation of powers. That is what has been critical of our structure in our current law, and the judges have the ability and the authority under current youth court law to do address the children, to send them to the diversion, to do that. This is simply addressing the intake side of that, and that we're trying to avoid the violation of checks and balances to provide a good system that will allow the children to thrive. And I would ask you to vote against the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Wiggins. To close, Senator Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'll tell you that I am really concerned about the transfer or the restructuring of what our youth court judges, and I understand some of the concern, Chairman Wiggins, about in some parts of the state you may have youth court judges may not doing what they need to do, but I just think that this august body has the power to provide them the resources that they need to be successful, because their success is in fact tied to what we are doing for Mississippi families and Mississippi children. I have a serious concern with an agency that is already being, as we know, in litigation, or the state being in litigation. And even the recent report, the August 2025 report, talks about the problems that still, or the challenges we face as a state regarding the agency itself. And I just believe that our children, especially those who are in abused and neglected situations, are better served if at the most critical and at the very beginning of the process that a judge is involved, as opposed to based upon what I understand from my reading of the bill in just 3 hours or so, that function is going to be a function at the agency level without any judge, even if it's the chancellor in these new areas, knowing anything about the acceptance of the case, the diversion that Chairman Sparks talked about, dismissal, or any authorization regarding to petition. And I think this is a very unintended consequence of the bill. I believe it's harmless if we only can restore a judge just being involved. We still can maintain the functions of what we are restructuring regarding the agency, but just not eliminate our judicial officers being part of that process. So for that reason, I ask that you will support this amendment, and I do ask for a roll call, Mr. President.
We need 6 to join you, Senator. 6 to join you. 1. We have 6. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Barnett, Barrett, Berry, Blackman, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Carter, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, Dupree, England, Fillingay, Frazier, Gillespie Ison, Harkins, Hartness, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Jackson, Johnson, Kirby, Latner, McCon, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Mumford, Norwood, Parks, Pope, Rhodes, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Taylor, Thomas, Thompson, Turner Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger, Barnett, Barrett, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Chazanall, DeBar, Frazier, Hill, Johnson, McClendon, Michelle, Simmons of the 13th, Tate, Thomas, Thompson. Voting yes or yea, Barnett, Blackman, Brumfield, Dupree, Gillespie Isom, Hickman, Jackson, Mumford, Norwood, Pope, Simmons of the 12th, and Turner Ford. Voting no or nay, Barrett, Berry, Boyd, Carter, Chisholm, Delano, England, Fillingay, Harkins, Hartness, Hobson, Kirby, Ladner, McCon, McMahon, Parks, Rhodes, Seymour, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Taylor, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger.
Vote of 12 to 26, it fails. Senator Simmons.
Just two more amendments.
One more, just one second.
I think one more.
Senator Simmons amendment. One moment, please, sir. We'll put it on the screen for you. Senator Simmons, you're recognized. We're ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I raised a question about this. Senator Sparks raised a question about this. This amendment simply takes us back as a default that our youth court proceedings are closed, and if they are in fact open, then the judge can place on the record why they should be open. That's all the amendment does.
Questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Wiggins.
I would ask you to vote against the amendment. I also would say that I think it really changes and goes against the substance of the call. And the call from the governor is that we have these, as explained to you, that we have the open courtrooms with everything that I've explained to you. So I would ask you to vote against the amendment.
Senator Simmons, recognized to close.
I ask you to support the amendment.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The noes have it. Senator Simmons, you're recognized. Please place this amendment on the screen. Okay, Senator Simmons, we're recognized, sir.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, what this bill does is basically for those new chancellors that Chairman Wiggins talked about around the state, as opposed to those new chancellors being appointed, this amendment requires that they are elected. Just like all of our other judges in the state, it basically would allow a qualifying deadline to be at 5:00 p.m. on August the 2nd, and the election will be this November, which we have an election, so it's not going to cost us any money. And those new elected chancellors in those new areas, elected by the people in those areas, they can actually start serving on July 1st, 2027, as the bill outlined. That's all the amendment does. I'll yield to any questions.
Questions on the amendment? Questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Wiggins.
Again, I would ask you to vote against the amendment. That changes actually the tenor of the whole bill and the call that we have. The governor makes those appointments, and it doesn't start till 2027. Even having an I don't even know how we can have an election in this November on that. I would ask you to vote against the amendment as it fully changes the call of the governor.
Senator Simmons, you're recognized to close on the amendment, sir.
I think this does exactly what the governor wants, as opposed to just taking away the appointment power, of course, and just allowing the people in those areas to elect the judges like we do in all our other judicial elections. This is 2026, if you all recall, is a judicial election year. A lot of our judges all over the state qualified by February the 1st. Their names in a nonpartisan election, which is outlined in this amendment, are on the ballot for November. And so if we are going to rush down here and find it so important that we want new chancellors in the state of Mississippi in certain areas, let's treat those new chancellors just like all of our other chancellors and circuit court judges around the state in this judicial nonpartisan year. So that's all the amendment does. I ask you to support the amendment.
All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The noes have it. Thank you, Senator Simmons. Senator, pardon me? I'm sorry, we have another amendment. Senator Boyd, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment that you have on the screen starts with line 498. And just to refer back to you, the legislation that's before you, 497, it says that you shall not expend or receive reimbursement of any state funds for youth court purposes other than the salary supplement received by the county pursuant to 9911. The language of the statute goes a little bit too far than what was intended, I think, to do. And so the substitute language substitutes the word direct after the word any, and then it adds to the end of the statement, however, nothing herein shall prohibit the court from receiving funds through grants from other state agencies and expending said funds. So the purpose of this amendment is the way we had it worded would have possibly limited the courts from receiving funds such as drug court funds maybe working with their community mental health center, different grants and things like that. And so this eliminates that possibility and they can still receive the funds through that metric. So that's an explanation of the bill and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions on the bill? Senator Turner Ford, for what purpose, ma'am?
Question.
You're recognized for a question, Senator. Senator Turner Ford is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know anything about this particular portion. So these funds are to be received by AOC?
The funds could be received from, some of the funds right now that like our county courts do receive are from drug funds that we've appropriated. Senator Sparks mentioned that we give funds to AOC for drug courts and different things like that. I mentioned the feasibility back to what Senator Barnett brought up in committee about making sure we had mental health funds. There's opportunities there with the community mental health centers that some of them possibly partner with. And so this just makes sure that they can receive those state funds. Department of Mental Health, if they're working with them on those particular issues, Department of Public Safety may have something, Department of Human Services. There's a whole nature of our state agencies that get various grants for particular purposes that these county courts may be receiving those grant funds. And so I just wanted to make sure if they were receiving those funds, and I had several of them write in to text me about that this was real problematic, this language, and could possibly put in jeopardy some things that they're already doing. And our goal is that we're trying to make sure that they're partnering and getting more help to these families and children in crisis. And so we're going to make sure we continue that.
And is there any type of centralized reporting requirement?
For those funds?
Yes.
Right now, I think they would be, the requirement would really be through the state agencies that are granting those funds. So for instance, right now, AOC grants them out drug monies for drug courts and different things like that. And so it's really from the state agency that would be the granting entity at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Turner Ford. Other questions? Senator Wiggins, you're recognized to speak on the amendment.
Yeah, I want to say that we had a good debate in the committee, and Senator Boyd made a good point about what was going on. And I think it's a good amendment because our youth courts do need the resources and the multiple funds. We have a number of youth courts that are doing well on that, And I think this will certainly help them, as we discussed in committee. And I would ask you to vote in favor of the amendment.
Ready for your motion, Senator Boyd?
Yes, I'd like to thank also Senator Hobson for working with us on this language too. I move to adopt the amendment.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Boyd. Senator Fillingham. We have one more after this, Senator. One moment, sir. Okay, we're good to go, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your indulgence at this late hour. This amendment merely on the opt-out portion, which if you're looking at the lines of the bill, I think start around line 500, says it adds an additional component at a population of less than 50,000 according to the 2020 federal decennial census. The point of this is that we have, I think, about 26 of our counties that have county courts. Most of them have been in place for quite some time. They have elected judges the citizens have elected. They have expertise in the area of youth court. They are full-time judges. And if you were to gut the youth court activities from them, I know the ones in my area that I've taught with, that comprises about 75% of their caseload. So you will have these elected judges with staffs and paid-for offices and all these things sitting around playing golf a number of days a week. And I don't think any of us want that. I don't think any of the complaints that we're trying to address in this bill really are directed at our county court judges. I think we have some other issues in areas of the state that don't have county courts. So I would ask for your support. I've spoken with the chairman, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he shares some of the same concerns that I've raised. So I would ask for your support.
Senator Wiggins, you recognize? I'm sorry, Senator Dupree, do you have a question on the bill?
I did, Mr. President.
Senator, were you here for a question?
Yes, sir.
Senator Dupree, you're recognized for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Senator, if you would.
Yes, sir.
We actually have a youth court judge, and she does a terrific job where she is. My question would be, do other provisions of the bill, will she have to, like the intake and all that things, will we exclude her from those processes, or can she continue to operate as she's been operating?
Well, my hope in my amendment is that she's a fantastic judge.
Yes.
I'm in front of her a number of times, and she really does the work. She's, I think, one of the models of what we would want to have.
Correct.
Hearing our youth court cases. And, you know, I don't try to get into the intricacies of the other parts of this bill that, you know, are before us. I'm simply saying Judge Jones-Russell, along a lot of other counties across the state, I think 26 of them in all, have years of experience. They have expertise. They do great work. I've heard nothing but good things from her and any number of our other judges. The one in Lamar County, Judge Parker, does a great job. And those are just the ones I'm most familiar with because I live, you know, in the same vicinity as you do. So I would just hate to see that particular court go away or be gutted and have nothing to do the majority of their time. I don't think that's the intent of anybody involved in this process, the governor on down. And so I would love for us to make sure that those judges stay in place and they continue operating as they have been. And if there are areas of the state where there are problems, I don't think it's any of these with the county courts.
See, I agree with you that the model should be those 25 or 26 county judges that we already have that operate, I mean, fantastically.
Right.
And if they're doing so well and they're the model, then we should not mess with them and try to make sure that we replicate that in the other.
Absolutely. And I think that was the original intent. I just think the language maybe got a little skewed in the final iterations, perhaps, unbeknownst to anyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Seymour, for what purpose? Good. Senator Seymour's good. Senator Hobson, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to get a clarification because one of the bills I looked at did not have the comment in it, and I was trying to make sure we had the right line, and that's what council was referencing me. But I'll ask Senator Fillingham this question.
Yes, sir.
Does this say that if you have a population under 50,000, you don't have the opportunity to get a youth county court?
You don't opt out. In other words, the state will not provide a new chancellor in your district, and the state will not have to pay for that. The counties will continue operating as they have been, with the counties paying for the county court judges, and they're doing a great job in most of the areas I'm aware of. I know in Forest County and Lamar County, they do exceptional work. No one's complaining about them, and yet if we leave the language as it is, it provides almost a reverse incentive for counties to consider doing away with those, because they would say, hey, if the state's going to provide a paid-for chancellor and a paid-for staff and a paid-for everything else, why would we as a county continue paying county dollars towards a court system that we've had in place when we can just punt that issue over to the state and let the state pay for it? I think that's not what any of us had intended and wanted to do, and it would be an additional cost to the state that's really unnecessary.
How would this affect the counties that have less than 50,000 and have a county court
I
judge?
think there's only 8 of those, I'm told, that have fallen below the 50,000, or that somehow got permission from the legislature to have a county court when they didn't have 50,000. So I could certainly see scenarios in those counties where, especially if they're the ones that have fallen in population, due to no fault of their own, it's just, where people migrate and move. If they have fallen so far below the 50,000, maybe they need to reconsider whether they need the county court system in place in the first place. But that would be for them to do. This doesn't do that. This would just allow them to opt out if they wanted to, or stay in if they wanted to.
If they have less than 50,000, they could still continue to have their county court, youth court, but they have to pay for it themselves, correct?
Exactly, as they have been.
And that's the same, and are you saying in this proposal that if you have above 50,000, you don't have to pay for it?
You don't opt out. You just keep paying for it. The county will keep paying just as they have.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator Hobson. Questions? Senator Wiggins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do think it's a good amendment. There was a little bit of discussion. I think this addresses the discussion about kind of what Senator Hobson was getting at. And so I think that gets to the intent of what we were trying to do. So I think it's a good amendment.
For your motion, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the amendment.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senator Barnett? One moment, please. We got to put it up on the screen. Just 1 second, please, Senator. Okay, we're good to go, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. The purpose of my amendment is to, for all of y'all that was in the committee here, and you heard my question of the chair in regards to how much attention was given when we drafted this piece of legislation to address mental health. I'm sorry. When we talk in the state of Mississippi, and I think mental health is very, very important. And being the chair of corrections, I have the opportunity over the last 8 years to see that a lot of our returning inmates to our Department of Corrections is not because they've committed new crimes, just because we didn't address the issue, that the underlying issue that put them there, and it's not because of things that they did, whether robbing or stealing anything, but it was because of their mental health. And I just wanted to insert on lines from lines 446 to 495 that no less than 1/3 of the licensed future beds to expand capacity at Oakley Youth Development Center or any other youth detention center shall be dedicated to providing mental health services and housing individuals receiving mental health services. And these are for our children. And if we don't do something today, we can only expect to see a increase in those people that find themselves in the Department of Corrections. And I think this is a great amendment to what we're trying to do here when we talk about protecting our children in the state of Mississippi. And I think this will be a great way to address or to start down the road to addressing mental health amongst our children in the state of Mississippi. And I ask for passage of this amendment, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. questions first, Senator Wiggins? Questions for Senator Barnett? Seeing no questions, Senator Wiggins, you're recognized.
Mr. President, I was sitting there, we were talking, I know we had discussion in committee. I think Senator Barnett is certainly, we want to address the mental health stuff, was talking to Senator Hobson about that. Oakley is a last resort, what I call a last resort. And to Senator Barnett's point in committee, you know, we want to address the mental health side of this before we get to the last resort. So while I think the intention is really good, and we're going to working on that because the issue that he raised during committee was really good. So I would ask you to be against the amendment, and Senator Hobson and I are working to look into that and also address it through the appropriation side of things. And so I would ask you to vote against the amendment.
All right, Senator Barnett. Senator Barnett, you're recognized. Closer and make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to ask the members of this committee, you know, to vote how you feel, but I've had a conversation there with the appropriations chairman, and he assured me also that we'll be working on some language tomorrow in appropriations to address the mental health issues as well. So just act for passage if that's the way you choose to vote. Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it. Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Bryan? I think this is the last one. Is that right, Ms. Clerk? We have one more after this. Senator Bryan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we're getting two things confused. One is the question of whether the concept that's before us is a good idea, whether generally speaking, there are a lot of things in this bill that we think should become law, and whether we appreciate the work that's gone into getting us this far. I think overwhelmingly, perhaps everyone in this chamber agrees with that. But somehow that question now is morphed into the question of, therefore, should you pass this precise bill right here today, not knowing that it existed until 24 hours before we got here, being summoned down here in 24 hours when at least 10 of our colleagues are not here because of the inexplicable short notice of this special session, a shorter notice of any special session I ever remember, except maybe something called during a session. To what end? And whether we have to pass this particular bill at this particular time in this particular fashion. That's what I have difficulty with, and unless members of this body are just coming up to me and either lying or trying to make me feel good, I think a pretty strong majority of the chamber feels the same way. Of course, whether they'll vote that way is another question. But think of what's gone on. We got here at 3 o'clock. There was a copy of a bill that was made available. before you could even get a copy of the bill, before the bill even existed, you're being asked to agree to vote for the bill. I talked to people, not members, I talked to people who were asked to support the bill. And they said, can we see the bill? I said, no, you can't see the bill. We just want you to support it. What way is that to run a legislative body? I think, generally speaking, it's a good bill. I know there are lots of good features in it that I like, but there's some troubling features. Why is it that we can't take the time to actually figure out what we're voting on? There are 3 million people in this state. Some of them might have an idea. Why can't we take time to figure out what ideas other people might have? And just today, in the Judiciary Committee, even though the chairman for some reason said he would not accept substantive amendments, that's one of the more bizarre things that has happened today. That's a new one on me. But at any rate, there were some amendments allowed in committee. And of the amendments the chair permitted to be considered, there were a fair number of them adopted, which went into the committee sub. Then we've got here on the floor, and there are amendments being offered on the floor that are being adopted. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good change. That's something we need to do. Do you think that we've determined every single change that needs to be made to the bill to improve it between 3 p.m. and now, 7 hours nonstop with no rest and no sleep and no food? Why pursue this bill in this fashion? So what the amendment does is what I tried to allude to this morning, and mercy's sakes, I don't understand what was offensive about the notion that we simply deal with the crisis that has existed since we adjourned and went home, that there were sections of law inadvertently being repealed. Those bills, those provisions need to be reenacted immediately from and after passage. That's what this amendment would do. But it would simply delay consideration of everything else until people have a chance to look at the bill. We're at a good point. This bill exists. It's posted on the website. Everybody who's interested can download it, and for that matter, people who are not interested can download it. But it's in the public domain. What's the harm in ending this special session, dealing with the emergency that we have, and waiting a couple of weeks for this bill to be studied? If we did that, and if we came back to another special session sometime in the future, preferably when members of the legislature have enough advance warning to attend the special session for this most important bill that's been debated forever, and it's so important, we've got to deal with it, we've got to do it now, but we're perfectly happy to do with it with a sparsely populated chamber approaching the midnight hour. This just doesn't add up. But if we had time to vet the bill, we could come down here, as we frequently do in special sessions, have the relative committee meet before the special session to debate and take up the bill before its formal introduction, and we probably could run the whole thing through in a day. I do not understand what's wrong with that, nor do I understand the frantic, desperate nature that we do something in the next couple of hours. Based on conversations I've had with my colleagues, members of the Senate, we talk amongst ourselves. We know all the pressure that's being put. If it's such a good idea, why is it necessary to have all the pressure in the hurry up instead of letting the legislation stand on its own merits. I frankly don't want to be in a position on voting no on the bill because I think it's got good features, but it's not perfect. And this process that we keep having over and over and over again of a complex piece of legislation suddenly appearing and the chamber being told to vote on it immediately without considering alternative issues. I don't get it. Senator Fillingane's last amendment, the last amendment we voted on. Apparently, without that amendment, we were about to have an unintended consequence or an undesired consequence. How many of other of those that are in this 200-page bill that we haven't seen? We are told the answer to every question. How many times have you heard it? Don't worry, we'll be back in 2027. It doesn't matter if that's not right. It's not effective until the summer. We'll be here in 2020. Yes, 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 but we'll fix it. You don't have to worry about that. We'll fix it in 2027. The legislature collectively could not get its act together to extend 4 necessary and non-controversial sections of the code that were repealing on July the 1st in the session that just ended. How can you have any confidence that if you enact something which, don't worry about it being in bad form, we'll fix it, what confidence do you have that the legislature in 2027 can get its act together for this technical amendments bill or whatever it is that's looming in the background? I have some specific concerns about the bill. I'm just concerned about the mechanics of chancellors replacing referees, special masters, whatever. What happens when you don't have county judges? How does that work with the many and frequent temporary orders and emergency orders that you need to get in youth court, followed by, many of them, followed by a really quick hearing? I literally don't know how this works. It seems to me there's going to be a chancellor or two driving mighty fast around the districts to get to all the various counties that are going to need to have hearings within one day. I don't know. I don't know that that's a problem. I would like to have some opportunity to talk to that. I was talking to a chancellor earlier this week when I thought this session was looming sometime next week, and the chancellor raised the issue of how is someone going to get to all the various counties which are going to need hearings with no special masters and no referees. I don't know. I would like to think through that. And I would like to debate further the meaning of making proceedings public that have always been private for the purpose of protecting people who are young and have made a mistake that should not follow them the rest of their lives. One of the main concepts of a youth court is there a relatively large number of juveniles or people subject to the jurisdiction of the youth court who've done something that's bad enough that it needs to come to the attention of the court, and there needs to be a formal process, but it's not so bad that it needs to follow you all the rest of your lives. People, think about the internet. Things have changed. There are in courthouses all over this state, in the files, matters that would be terribly embarrassing if they were made public. But they're not made public because they're sitting in courthouse files from years ago. when something is on the internet, it doesn't quietly fade away. It lives after all of us, and it lives worldwide. What's going to happen to juveniles, and you can come up with the hypotheticals as well as I can, who find themselves in youth court with embarrassing testimony going on and no way to keep it from being public and broadcast around the world for all time. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm concerned about it. I'd like to talk more about it. There is one provision of this bill, and strangely enough, I've not heard it mentioned. And I can't figure out any particular relevance that it has to the youth court situation, but that's the last section of this bill, Section 68, which provides the changes in the makeup of the 19th Chancery Court District. At one point, it's Jones and Wayne County. Then it becomes Greene and Jones and Wayne County. Then it becomes George and Greene and Jones and Wayne County. And I'm guessing somewhere there's another Chancery District, maybe I've overlooked it, in which those counties are currently located, which year by year will no longer have those counties. I don't understand this provision, but I wonder if we're in a situation where the statute's going to read that there's some of these counties in two different Chancery districts at the same time. I don't know, and again, I don't understand the reason for that being in the bill, and I don't think there's been any explanation of it. I would say further, Mr. President, that I'll just point out that the list of these folks that have all endorsed the bill look to me, maybe I'm getting it wrong, as pretty much left-wing entities. They're not from around here, and I'm not sure why this body should be persuaded by the endorsement of this list of letters. I'll just let members look at the names, look at the addresses, and imagine what's going on. I'm told that in the explanation about Section 10, which there was an amendment to deal with, that we needed to get rid of the youth court judges organization and replace it with something with more diversity. I didn't realize that was so popular these days. Mr. President, I don't know how it came to be that this amendment, this proposition, is so offensive. I personally think it's a good bill. I personally think a lot of work has gone into it. But it contains some provisions that I have questions about. I think it contains some unintended consequences, and I think because this bill is so important, it deserves more attention than we've been able to give it in the rapid schedule it's been on. For that reason, Mr. President, I have offered the amendment, which once again would reenact the 4 sections which inadvertently repealed on July the 1st. Let us deal with that, go home, and allow the rest of the bill to be reviewed by members of the public and people around the state so that we can find out what other minor changes we might make. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Questions on the amendment? Questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Wiggins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Bryan for adding flair to the special session. First of all, this amendment is a strike-all amendment, and it essentially does gut everything we've been here and dealing with from the time we got here today. And as far as the process that I know is very valuable to Senator Bryan, it's been transparent. There's been no attempt or anything. We were here in the regular session. We know how that ended. This is the conference report that was before you. The governor has been out front on this. The bill was filed. You've had the chances to look at it. It's been discussed. We spent 3 years to this point. I'll take you back to July 1st when, through no fault of this chamber's, things went haywire, and we ended up in the Supreme Court. Agencies ended up in the Supreme Court. You had lawsuits filed, and in the meantime, there's kids who are being, as it was told to me, could be in the situation of being harmed, of being stuck in the system. And it took court orders to pause all that so that we could do our job. I think to address the children that this is about, the least we can do is to follow through on what we've been here. And I would ask you to vote down the amendment, and so that we can get to sending this to the House and let the House do their job so that we can move forward and put all of that behind us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bryan, you recognize the closing of your amendment, sir.
Mr. President, this is not the conference report. This bill that's before us did not exist. We didn't even know we were going to have a special session until yesterday afternoon. And the bill was not made public until after 3 o'clock when we convened. There just hasn't been time to consider it, hence my amendment. Mr. President, and I would just say, think about all the changes that have been made in it today. That ought to be reason enough to know that the bill needs to be considered further. And I'm taking this position, and others who are taking this position are friends of the bill and friends of the concept. They just don't think we should do this particular thing at this particular time. Mr. President, I ask that we call the roll on the amendment, and I move its adoption.
Need 6. We have 6. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Barnett, Barrett, Berry, Blackman, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Carter, Chastinall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, Dupree, England, Fillingham, Frazier, Gillespie Ison, Harkins, Harkness, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Jackson, Johnson, Kirby, Ladner, McCon, McLendon, McMahon, Michelle, Mumford, Norwood, Parks, Pope, Rhodes, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th. Simmons of the 13th. Sparks. Suber. Tate. Taylor. Thomas. Thompson. Turner Ford. Whaley. Wiggins. Williams. Younger. Barrett. Berry. Blackwell. Blunt. Chazanall. DeBar. England. Frazier. Hill. Johnson. McCon. McLendon. McMahon. Michelle. Rhodes. Simmons of the 12th, no, Simmons of the 13th. Suber. Thomas. Thompson. Voting yes or yay. Barnett. Blackman. Brumfield. Bryan. Butler. Dupree. Gillespie Ison. Hickman. Jackson. Mumford. Norwood. Pope. Simmons of the 12th. Tate. And Turner Ford. Voting no or nay. Barrett. Berry. Boyd. Carter. Chisholm. Delano. England. Fillingane. Harkins. Hartness. Hobson. Kirby. Ladner. McCon. McMahon. Parks. Rhodes. Seymour. Sparks. Suber. Taylor. Whaley. Wiggins. Williams, and Younger. That's it.
By vote 15 to 25 fails. Senator Bryan.
Mr. President, I move adoption of the amendment. I'd like to explain what the amendment does.
Please proceed, Senator Bryan.
There are a number of provisions in this bill that do not take effect until the summer of 2027 or afterwards. We are told not to worry if there are problems with those provisions. We'll be here in 2027 and we can fix it. What this amendment does is for the provisions that, by the terms of this bill, do not take effect until July 1st, 27 or later, have effectively reverse repealers in them, which would simply put us in a position of needing to take affirmative action in the 2027 session. If the provisions are not going into effect until the summer of 2027. And if the answer to every objection is, don't worry, we'll be back in 2027, you have the same opportunity in 2027 to just remove the repealers. And by the way, make any changes you need to. For the life of me, I don't understand why there would be any opposition to this bill, and I move its adoption.
Thank you, Senator. Questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Wiggins. You recognized to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this is really doing is it's effectively a reverse repealer going into the bill on that and freezes everything, and so it is essentially stops everything that we've debated on and really changes what the call has been about because it freezes everything. And so on that, I would ask you to vote against the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Brian, you recognize close.
It's getting where I do not recognize this legislature and I do not recognize this Senate. I do not understand why people continue to vote for propositions they think are unwise. I just think of all the various votes we've had where people who, A, professed that they were going to vote no, or B, said they thought the bill was a bad idea and should fail, nevertheless voted for it. It did not used to be that way. I don't know what the rest of you said when you ran for public office, but I didn't run on a platform of I'll do what I'm told. I didn't run on a platform of I'll stand up and vote for the district unless I'm scared and then I won't. You understand, don't you? But all in the world this particular amendment does is it deals with all of those features which you've been told from this podium over and over and over again. Yes, that's a problem, but don't worry about it. We'll be here in 2027. We can fix it. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it in 2027. I say again, just like they fixed the repealers on the bills that repealed on July 1st because they couldn't get their act together in the 2026 session. This simply puts the onus on the 27 legislature to remove the repealers so that there'll be an opportunity to deal with the many problems that have been raised and the inadvertent consequences from the bill. Mr. President, I ask for a roll call.
Need 6. Stand, please. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you, Senators. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Barnett, Barrett, Berry, Blackman, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Carter, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, Dupree, England, Fillingay, Frazier, Gillespie Isom, Harkins, Hardness, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Jackson, Johnson, Kirby, Ladner, McCon, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Mumford, Norwood, Parks, Pope, Rhodes, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Taylor, Thomas, Thompson, Turner Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger, Barnett, Barrett, Berry, Blackwell, Blunt, Brumfield, Chazanall, DeBar, Frazier, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Johnson, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Norwood, Suber, Thomas, Thompson, voting yes or yea, Barnett, Blackman, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Dupree, Gillespie Isom, Jackson, Mumford, Norwood, Pope, Simmons of the 12th, and Turner Ford. Voting no or nay, Barrett, Berry, Boyd, Carter, Chisholm, Delano, England, Fillingane, Harkins, Hartness, Hobson, Kirby, Ladner, McCon, McMahon, Parks, Rhodes, Seymour, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Taylor, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, and Younger.
Senator Butler, for what purpose?
To the vote, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
If Senator Hill was here, she would vote no. I vote aye.
Pear, Butler, Hill. Vote of 12 to 26 fails. Senator Boyd, last one.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment that y'all have, should have up in just a few seconds is conforming to the amendment I brought before you earlier. We had missed a spot in the code section that had the same language on this. So we're going to amend line 2478, inserting the word reimbursement of after the word receive, and then amend the line 2478 by inserting the word direct after the word expend, and amend amend on line 2478 after the period by inserting the following words. However, nothing herein shall prohibit the court from receiving funds through grants from other state agencies and expending said funds. You heard my explanation earlier. That applies to this. I'm happy to answer questions.
Senator Bryan, for what purpose?
I'd like to speak on the amendment.
Questions on the bill? On the amendment? Questions on the amendment? Senator Bryan's recognized, Senator Simmons. One moment, please. Senator Boyd, will you recognize?
Yes.
Senator Simmons? Senator Simmons is recognized for a question on the bill.
One question, Mr. President. You yield?
Yes.
Thank you, Senator. Does this at all go against the purpose of the call?
I'm sorry. I'm not going to answer. I don't know if this goes against the purpose of the call, but I do know that it will allow our judges to use the funds that they're currently using and continue to do so. Thank you.
Senator Bryan, recognized to speak on the bill. Senator Wiggins, next.
After all that, another amendment? This is turning into parody. I'm tempted to move that we recess subject to call of the chair so that members can have some time to figure out a few more amendments we need to deal with this bill, which absolutely must pass tonight, regardless of any difficulties with the language of the bill itself. And I'd also, just out of curiosity, if we're going to do that, figure out what all is going on with that strange language about the Chancery Court District down in southeast Mississippi.
Thank you, Senator Bryan. Senator Wiggins, you recognize to speak on the amendment.
It was simply a conforming amendment that needed to be done. Legal counsel has worked tremendously on this. That was unnecessary. Please vote for the amendment.
Close, Senator Boyd.
Move adoption of the amendment.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senator Wiggins, no further amendments. Senator England, for what purpose?
Introduction out of order, Mr. President.
One moment, please. Senator Wiggins. Senator Simmons.
I'd like to speak on final passage, Mr. President.
Speak on final. If you'd come forward, sir. It's late in the evening. We need to finish. Senator Wiggins.
Thank you, Mr. President. My motion is that we use a morning roll call for final passage as amended. Afternoon roll call. Thank you.
Senator Simmons, you recognize. Speak on the bill.
I know it's late, but tonight we are being asked to fundamentally change our youth court system. This is not a decision that we should take lightly. When we change the laws that govern abused and neglected children, families in crisis, and the courts charged with protecting them, we have a responsibility to ensure that those changes are supported by the evidence and not by frustration, not by politics, not by a desire to solve one problem by creating another. And certainly, based on what we have experienced today, not by a press release calling us here 24 hours to make such monumental changes to a system as we know it, without a fair opportunity for even members of this august body to take the time to review the legislation, and to make sure, or to at the very least, to eliminate any unintended consequences. For that reason, I respectfully rise in opposition of the bill. No one in this chamber, as you have heard from many of the questions that were raised, from many senators who offered amendments, no one disputes that our child welfare system needs improvement. We want our children to be safe. We want our children to find permanent, loving homes. We want all of Mississippi to fully satisfy the requirements of Olivia Y. Those goals unite us. But the question before us tonight is whether the legislation that many of you have not had a fair opportunity to consider and read, whether the legislation actually addresses the root causes of all of these challenges. I submit to you, in part, it may not. I also submit to you, in part, we may not even know the answers. For years, this legislature has invested substantial resources in CPS. We have appropriated millions of dollars, and I know Chairman Hobson would agree that at one point we appropriated $31 million to strengthen the system and to improve services. Yet many of those concerns still remain, as I indicated in the August 2025 report. We continue to hear about delays in investigations. We continue to hear about the overwhelming backlog in the system. We continue to hear about the staffing shortages. We continue to hear about the problems that we have had regarding placement. Those are administrative functions. Those are not a problem that we have with our dedicated youth court judges in this state that are charged with addressing some of the most sensitive and some of the most very important matters regarding children and their Mississippi families. Changing the structure of our courts would not make an investigator respond faster. Changing our courts would not reduce the administrative backlogs. Changing our courts will not ensure additional foster homes. Changing our courts will not improve agency management, which if you call and talk to your youth court judge, you'll find out a lot of these issues are based at the agency level. So I just simply ask, again, are we doing the right thing by making a structural change to the overall system as opposed to going through a deliberate process, making sure that we are supporting our youth court judges and really addressing the real problem as outlined by the Olivia Y litigation and the many reports that we've seen that evaluated our state post Olivia Y. We should not just simply rewrite our statewide law because of disagreements involving individual personalities. We should take our time and address the real issue that we know exists in the state of Mississippi regarding abused and neglected children, and also those children who face delinquency. I submit to you, like Chairman Bryant mentioned, there are parts of the legislation that I agree with, but there's also parts of the legislation, if you truly voted your conscience, if you truly voted your district, if you truly voted what many of your chancellors have called you and said, what many of your youth court judges have called you to express, and even many of our supervisors regarding the legislation that's before you. We'll try to slow the train down, and we'll do what we always do in this body. This is a deliberate body. It's the function of the legislature to take its time to operate in a deliberate manner and to do everything we can to address those policy concerns. A lot of the legislation even talks about effective dates that are past January the 1st, Senator. If that's the case, why not just extend the repealers, which is currently in federal court in front of Judge Wingate, come here in January during the regular constitutional authority granted to this body to address all of these concerns? Why are we rushing this? There will be unintended consequences. And I submit to you that all of what you've heard about, we will make those changes, I'm not very optimistic. Sponsor legislation to make some of the changes that you hear from your youth court judges and your chancellors and your supervisors as soon as you leave here tomorrow. Sponsor those legislations in October early, have them filed in January, and see where they go. It's not going to happen. I know it. You know it. Everybody in this building knows it. And certainly the one that is pushing us to quickly and promptly make changes to overhaul the system knows it as well. We deserve real solutions. Solutions that strengthen investigations, solutions that improve case management, solutions that recruit and retain qualified caseworkers, solutions that expand placement options, solutions that reduce delays before cases ever reach a judge. Those reforms will directly benefit children. We should not confuse structural change with meaningful reform. Sometimes changing the law is the easiest thing to do. Fixing the underlying problem is much harder. Tonight, I just simply ask you to vote your conscience. I simply ask you not to vote what you've been told you had to do, but vote what's in the best interests of Mississippi children. Vote what's in the best interests of Mississippi families. And I'll conclude with this. A lot of times, it's only natural that we advocate for our individual districts. A lot of times, it's only natural that we come into this body here on 400 High Street and we just simply say, well, my district is not affected, so I'm gonna go ahead and support the legislation. I ask you to just pause for 1 second and just consider voting for what's in the best interest of all Mississippi children and what is in the best interest of all Mississippi families. Your district may be fine. Your youth court may be fine. But as you know, there are certain parts of the state that are suffering, and they are suffering from the neglect from what has happened in this building regarding resources. Consider for a moment what's in the best interest of those areas of the state as well. And where youth courts are doing well, this bill will change that structure as well. And that is a really a big concern of mine, because in a lot of rural, underserved areas of the state of Mississippi, a lot of our dedicated youth court judges, they got it right, and they are doing it right. But this overhaul would affect them And I truly believe that access to the courts will hurt Mississippi families and Mississippi children in those areas. For that reason, I ask you to vote no on this legislation. And voting no would not really hurt everything that we've heard from the chairman, everything we've heard about the agreement regarding the leader of this chamber and the speaker and the governor of this state. It won't hurt it because we can come back in January. We can address all of the concerns that have been expressed and raised in committee and on the floor today. We can address those concerns in January. Vote no on this legislation.
Thank you, Senator Simmons. Senator Wiggins, you recognize the closer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's been a long day. I'm not going to speak long, but I do want to address a couple things. You've heard the debate. We all appreciate your attentiveness and listening to what has gone on here. And Senator Simmons is right. We have to do what is in the best interest of the children. And you know what? He's right too. We do vote our district. But you know what? We are state legislators. We were sent here by our districts to do what is best in the interest of the state and our state's children. When you're thinking about who was talking to you about this bill, think about all those people that came up here to the Capitol today to talk to you about supporting the bill. These are people in the system. These are people who have reached out to us and said, help us, so that we can help the children that we see every day. We appreciate what the youth court judges do. Fine people. As I've said many times, this isn't about individuals, this is systemic. And we're here to chart a new path for the youth and the children in this state. And yes, the governor's brought us here in this special session to do this. It's that important. And yes, we can think about our own districts. I get it. But we're being asked to think about all the children. Those that we've spent money on who are being housed in hotel rooms. Remember when CPS came here and said those children were having to put up in hotel rooms? The children who we've had to fund indigent representation. The people being represented by the state public defender's office because they can't represent themselves. These people are asking us. At the start of the session, there was a press conference. It was filled with people who were asking us to help. CASA, judges, workers, social workers. These people are constituents too, and they're asking for our help. They need our help. We got time to help our individual districts, but we all took an oath to help our state, and this is a chance. The governor is asking us, the agency, the executive branch is asking us to help them. I spend a lot of time, or I have talked about executive branch versus legislative branch. The executive branch is here asking the legislature to help them and to help the children that they have to oversee. Yes, it's probably taken a long time for us to get here. And yes, Change and reform is not pretty. And yes, our youth court judges across the board do an excellent job. They care about these children. During this whole process, the thing I heard is Senator Wiggins, Chairman Wiggins, you want somebody who wants to be a youth court judge, and they're right. And on this bill, I guarantee you, I encourage every single one of you, if this passes, to go to the governor and say, this person can stand up for the children in the courtroom. Because that person is made of this. Let us honor our obligation and think the big picture here. And yes, do what's right by the children and in the best interest of them. And I'm asking you to vote in favor of this so that we can send this to the House, address it. This situation that arrived July 1st can be put behind us, and we can get peace of mind to these workers, to the children, to the youth, to the law enforcement, everybody that's of this system. And speaking of the system, and I'll finish with this, the system is not just the judges. The system is everybody that came up here today and during this session, talking to you, asking you to support the conference report from the regular session, and now asking you to support this bill. And we hadn't spent a lot of time talking about it, but the truancy part in this bill. Judiciary A had hearings. I remember they sat there, and the thing that stood out to me, they said, truancy is the first indicator by these youth court judges of something is wrong with those children. The lieutenant governor has talked about truancy and made that a cornerstone. And this bill gets us there. It puts the next piece of the puzzle in place. And we need to address truancy so that we can, to what Senator Barnett was saying in committee, these kids, we need to have them not end up in MDOC. And I guarantee you, every single one of the people that have talked to you, that is what they want for the children not to end up in MDOC. So let's support this bill, vote in favor, and send it to the House. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Suggested use of the afternoon roll call for final passage. Does any senator object? We have an objection. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Barnett, Barrett, Berry, Blackman, Blackwell, Blunt, Boyd, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Carter, Chazanall, Chisholm, DeBar, Delano, Dupree, England, Fillingane, Frazier, Gillespie Ison, Harkins, Harkness, Hickman, Hill, Hobson, Jackson, Johnson, Kirby, Ladner, McCon, McClendon, McMahon, Michelle, Mumford, Norwood, Parks, Pope, Rhodes, Seymour, Simmons of the 12th, Simmons of the 13th, Sparks, Suber, Tate, Taylor, Thomas, Thompson, Turner Ford, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger, Barrett, Berry, Blackwell, Blunt, Brumfield, Bryan, Butler, Chazanall, DeBar, Frazier, Hickman, Hill, Jackson, Johnson, McClendon, Michelle, Rhodes, Simmons of the 13th, Suber, Thomas, Thompson, Younger. Voting yes or yea, Barnett, Barrett, Berry, Boyd, Carter, Chisholm, Delano, England, Fillingane, Harkins, Hartness, Hobson, Kirby, Ladner, McMahon, Parks, Rhodes, Seymour, Sparks, Tate, Taylor, Whaley, Wiggins, Williams, Younger. Voting no or nay, Blackman, Brumfield, Dupree, Gillespie Ison, McCon, Mumford, Norwood, Pope, Simmons of the 12th, and Turner Ford.
By a vote of 25 to 10, passes. Senator Wiggins,
Mr. President, I would ask for immediate release.
seeing no objections, granted. Senator Harkins, before we start with Senator Harkins, I want to take just 1 second to thank all of you, as Reverend Parker said, for an impromptu call. I know many of you had to cancel plans, vacations, trips, things that cost you money, time, and effort, took you away from your jobs, and we really appreciate that. Particularly want to thank Senator Whaley. His father's in the hospital. I ask you to keep him in your prayers as we go forward here. So many of you have struggled to come tonight and be here to address this so important issue, and the citizens of Mississippi were well served. Okay, Senator McMahon, for what purpose?
Adjourn in memory.
Please proceed.
I ask the Senate adjourn in memory of my neighbor, Ronnie Bradley, who slipped into eternity this past weekend.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Harkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion is we move the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.